67. Oh my goodness, it's here. It's finally here. It's Christmas time again, Wyatt. You look so excited.
Dude, no one cares that much. I mean, let's tone it down. It's
Kickoff,
another week of podcasts. I mean, is it?
It's
about to be.
Well,
yeah.
I'm slowly sinking into my chair.
No,
Valorant's
don't let the
not
chair
real.
eat you yet. Dude,
But it's a secret lab chair, and I heard
But
they're
Mimi,
really cool.
We need you to work. We must pay you for your labor.
Oh,
Therefore, you're not allowed.
I love providing services in exchange for currency that I can then use to procure goods and/or services. That's one of my top 5 favorite things to do.
So Valorant doesn't get you going, but capitalism does. All right, we'll file that away for later.
That's the quote that I need remembered. Yep.
Yeah. What's got you down, Wyatt? Why are you
I'm
brimming
not
with excitement?
down. You just were way too excited.
You were on like the Mr.
Depressed.
Beast energy.
I'm just like, this is cool. Yeah, it really
I can't wait for
was.
Josh to buy like a train and shove it into a giant pit while the 15 orphans he just saved are watching.
I know, it's wild. It's out of control. It's fine. I mean, it's not, like what do you expect me to be so excited about? I'm not here getting like slurped off. I'm just podcasting. Like, what do you? Like, I'm not gonna be that excited. But okay, listen.
Wyatt, it's always Superdome
VCT.
this, getting slurped off that. This is a family show, Wyatt.
No, it isn't. It's not a family show anymore. You see, it's not a family.
Well, I mean, come on.
I said,
As if they weren't going to get demonetized for getting slurped off in the first
Maybe
2
he was
minutes.
talking about the Slurpee.
It's not a family show anymore. Your grandparents can't watch. Your aunt and uncle can't watch. You can watch, but make sure your headphones are on, especially if you're at work in your cubicle pretending to do something on Microsoft Excel, while in reality your job is make-believe, like the one I had when I was in a cubicle. Anyhow, I guess we can talk about Valorant.
Josh, what did you think about the Super Bowl, the big game?
Oh yeah, did anyone watch?
No.
Was that this weekend?
That was yesterday, yep.
Oh. Boy, I am no longer allowed to have my citizenship, apparently.
Yeah, it's getting revoked, actually.
Okay,
No,
well,
we're really
hello.
plugged
Will,
into the
sorry,
world of
I'm just
traditional
forgetting.
sports.
Who were the 2 teams that played in the Super Bowl? Who was it again?
That's
Just
a
put a
great
jumper on
question.
blast.
Surely Sentinels is one of them, right? Like, surely they're playing in the Super Bowl.
It's gotta be.
Kurt, were the Bills in it this year?
Don't bring that up.
Unfortunately,
Don't bring
they
up
weren't.
the Bills.
Oh,
Dude,
that's so
Fudge.
sad. That's so sad. Did you watch it, Mimi?
Oh God, no. I don't care about sports, but I will watch sports if any of the Philly teams are in it because it's fun to go to bars and like be in the environment. I spent like $150 going in bars to watch the Phillies fail to make it to the World Series, and it was really exciting. They just lost 4 nights in a row.
Interesting. Maybe just, throwing around how much money she's making.
Yeah, I'm pretty rich.
Yeah.
As per in pre-pro, she's losing touch with her roots.
Yep.
Cannot relate to the common man like me anymore.
So true.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you know what I'm excited about to start this episode off? This is one of the rare sponsored episodes that we got coming at you, flying out right before kickoff. And who's the sponsor? It's Factor Meals, baby. You can get food. You can actually eat the sponsor. You want to eat the rich? No, eat some food instead. It's factormeals.com/Valorant50. They are a ready-to-eat meal service that you can order to your door, cheaper than takeout, and deliberately designed to be healthy. You can specify them if you have a certain dietary requirement. Like if you're a little soy boy like me, you can get some vegan or veggie ones delivered to your door, and then they won't have that delicious creamy Dijon pork tenderloin on them. Or, you can just cheat and get the... who's going to know? Who's going to be stood outside your door knowing what you get ordered from Factor Meals? So, yeah, they're ready-to-eat food kits that you can get ordered to your door instead of having to prep. If you have a job that's like, the 9-to-5 TikTok person who was crying about the fact that they didn't have time to be able to make their own food or do anything around the house because capitalism's a nightmare and Mimi loves it. Yeah, I mean, if you're in that kind of situation, then you can use a meal service like this, and it's really useful. So perfect solution if you're looking for fast upscale options done easily is their little tagline. No prep, no mess. You just heat them up. They're ready to eat. And you can go to factormeals.com/Valorant50 and use code Valorant50 to get 50% off. For anyone who's mathematically challenged, that's half off. That's a lot off. So code VALORANT50 at factormeals.com/VALORANT50 to get 50% off. That's 50.
Since we know too many pro players watch this show that shouldn't be watching this show, please stop spending $900 every single day on DoorDash. Just go to the link. Just go to the link.
There you go.
I mean, genuinely. If you have a job like streaming as well, where you're just eating junk food all the time because you can't be bothered. I know that I was like in 2021 or 2022. Yeah, you can avoid looking like a pudding. Where's that picture of me from LCQ where I look wider than the earth was just funded by my insane addiction to eating takeout.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, the one where you're in the
what?
driveway of the studio walking like this? Yes.
Oh, I gotta find that.
It's Bren's Twitter banner, I think. Or at least it was 2 years ago.
It was Bren's Twitter banner?
It was 2 years ago. I don't know if it still is.
Incredible. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, you could avoid looking like this. This is unedited, actually. This is just what I look like in 2021.
This is Josh immediately after finding out that the NALCQ 2021 got canceled due to COVID, and he's just wide walking away.
Just fuming.
That event was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It
Were you
really
there?
was.
I was.
Oh.
That's when I met you guys.
Oh.
Dude, Wyatt, you're the one that's out of touch. You don't even
Long time ago.
remember me. That's crazy.
That was so long ago at this point. What a time to be alive. That
So
was
true.
20, I don't know.
You
think
just said it
21,
3
but I'm-
times.
But I'm not sure. I wasn't confident in that, to be honest with you. Yeah. All right,
even
let's get
3
into the
years.
Valorant stuff. I want to prep the viewers on what's coming up. All right, well, Wyatt's going to do another 30 minutes on the Super Bowl and how the traffic in Austin's looking pretty bad. And then we'll get into the Valorant topic. Later on, we're going to be doing our pick'ems for all of the different kickoff events, plus running you through some of the matches that we think are the best matches of each of the regions. But I wanted to start with like a little bit of a tease, because it looks like there might be some chamber buffs coming that are pretty important. They're out on the PBE. Who knows when these are going to get added to the game? I mean, the sky changes got added like 2 weeks before the season was about to begin, so chamber buffs could be coming at any point, and it would not surprise me. But it does seem fairly like valid to push chamber more and more into the meta, which is something I know that Sliggy has been. I think, dude, if Sliggy was running a team right now, he'd be running chamber on most of the maps, but I don't think most teams are.
I think Chamber's actually in a pretty good place, like even before these changes. I think he's still quite strong. I think the teleport has a lot of potential, especially with this map pool, where I think he's viable on Breeze. I think he's viable on Sunset. He's viable on Blind. Like there's a lot of maps where, and even more, I think you can play him on Lotus too, where he has a lot of potential to be good. I just think Cypher is so strong right now, and he has these quality of life issues like the slow fire rate on the Tour de Force and the overly expensive kit. And for me, I just see this as really good quality of life fixes that are actually going to make his ult kind of like an ult again and make the Headhunter something that's not just a waste of money to buy. I feel like so often if you're playing this agent, you're just like not buying Headhunter bullets and you're just, I'm a character with 2 abilities and hopefully I get value out of my teleport. I still think Cypher is so strong that not a ton of teams are going to pick into him. I don't think he's going to be like meta leading, but I feel like the quality of life is enough to kind of entice more people to be playing him.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, these seem mild enough, right? That it's just a nudge that like chamber players need to justify themselves playing chamber, and no one has to call them that they're trolling. I mean, I feel like Headhunters are in. I feel like Headhunters is in a weird spot where it's like, no matter what you do, if you keep all the other stats the same, 100 creds is always going to feel that it's way too good for pros, and then 150 is going to feel that it's never really finding value even for the pros, just because like. You're kind of assuming in both realms that you're always getting a 1-shot, 1 kill, which is obviously the goal. But then you're trying to adjust it for, I guess, the wider player base as well. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, obviously that's not kind of the make or break deal anyway with him. It's mostly the trip and then the teleport. So yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think overall, I mean, obviously a lot of people are talking about how this is going to affect like so much of the Pacific teams because like Ye's here and then Excurid is now on T1 and there's all these people who really used to rely on the chamber. So we'll see if, I mean, we'll see when it comes through. Like you said, I mean, probably my guess is, yeah, there you go. Hey, that's happening right
You
now.
better move Zeta to the top too.
Yeah,
goat
with Laz.
That's true. Yeah.
Dude, but
So-
Xkira is actually filthy, man. If people
really
weren't paying
good.
attention to the off-season tournaments,
Yeah.
he came out on Chamber and he was just wiping the floor with people. His op-in's spectacular.
Can
Yeah,
we move all those other teams down?
Yeah, like Fnatic, they
Yeah,
don't have a
those
good
guys
Chamber
are
player,
bad.
obviously.
Leviathan obviously don't have anyone who could play Chamber well.
No, famously. I am getting more and more excited though about the state of the game heading into this season. I think as much as the Sky change was like caught everybody by surprise and didn't really seem like the best thing for competitive integrity right before the season, the amount of teams that are talking about cooking up new comps. Sentinels was leaking the fact that they I say leaking. Who knows? Because teams might change stuff all the time. But Sentinels were saying they're not planning to play the default composition on Ascent. NRG, Chet in an interview was saying that his team's been cooking and he thinks that other teams might end up copying what they're going for. They've got something very unique. We've seen a bunch of people talking about how varied the meta might end up being for the start of this season. I think Kickoff's going to be wild with like people running different stuff all over the place.
See, you're going to be so excited until we get a best out of 3 that is Breeze into just like Bind into Sunset. Actually, Sunset's a fine map, but the map pool is still kind of dreadful. But I do agree that I feel like there's a lot of interesting changes. We've also had such a like super long off season that there's kind of no saying what most of these teams are going to be picking into, which will make it really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if Cypher wasn't so amazing right now, we'd be seeing Chamber everywhere, but we're still going to see Chamber on 4 maps constantly. On Bind, Breeze, Icebox, and Lotus. Like, so many teams have people that were amazing Chambers, and still are by virtue of that. You're just going to assume going into it. And they're going to be played constantly on 4 of the maps. Like, the teams that have sick Chambers are going to be so bad.
Do you think Chamber's going to go crazy on
I think you guys are undervaluing how big of a buff this is. I think the Headhunter being at 100 again is kind of crazy. Like, even just being able to start into the pistol round and have 4 shots with it rather than 2 if you're opting for that is a very big difference. And it just there's going to be so many situations throughout the game where you're able to get that, you know, maybe 1 or 2 more bullets and still be able to have a trip for the round. Situations like that are going to come up extremely often again. I think this is a pretty huge buff. I think you're going to see Chamber constantly on the and it's going to feel like we're seeing him all the time because it's going to be on 4 maps in the pool. It's super viable because just of the rotation right now. Like if there were different maps in that, it might not feel like the case that Chamber's so back, but it's just because they've rotated Icebox back in, and then, you know, Bind didn't get removed yet, so it's still super viable there. Yeah, I think just kind of by virtue of the map pool and the Headhunter thing, you're going to see Chamber constantly, and so many teams are probably fiending to bring him back as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, they're all like, there were so many teams that were already leaning into it just because he got buffed a little bit, and they had a player carried over that was so good on it that it was worth playing with theoretically the least optimal agent on the Sentinel role just because you had Laz or Cryo or whomever. That's where I stand with it.
I don't play enough Chamber, but on Breeze, if you trip the top of halls, which I think would be the most standard place to play, where does that actually allow you to position yourself?
You can play quite a lot. You can like get out and like, I'm pretty sure you can take like the peak into A main if you're from back pyramids. You can be playing the position top mid. You can't make it over to the B site in time, but you can play a lot of positions on A, and you can get like fairly aggressive in mid before you're out of range. Like I forget which patch it was a few ago, but the range buffs to it really make you quite maneuverable with that trip.
Yeah. I think the meta's going to be wild, honestly, especially because so many teams have had to pivot away from running like the solo initiator stuff. And also shout out to the interviews from Pedro Romero. If people haven't been looking at that, I do want to give a shout out to this guy because he's putting out really good content.
He's
and
fantastic.
They're getting decent viewership and they deserve it as well. But I mean, he's only got like under 1,000 subscribers on his channel, and he's putting out the best interviews for the beginning of the season. And he's at, you know, it's not like, I feel like a lot of the time I sit down in these press conferences and people are asking bland stuff, but these are really good interviews with some serious questions being asked, and some like digging into last year, some digging into the meta, some like how the teams are approaching the season. So I'd highly recommend going and having a look at those. He's doing great interview work.
No, he is fantastic. I did one with him a few months ago. It was like 3 hours long or something, and he was asking me the Nardwar ass questions, just deep cuts about my life and the Germa Rumble and shit. And it was I was like, yeah, no, I was blown away. He's super talented.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big shot. I get interviewed.
Hey, that's me.
All right, should we move on to doing some preds and stuff then? Let's talk about some of the matches that are happening. First up, I mean, actually, should we just decide to only do Americas today?
Yeah.
I feel like it's kind of pointless talking about the other region.
I mean, maybe one of them, because we don't know shit about it.
I'm glad I'm here for that region that I really am very involved in.
No, I'm just
Entrenched into.
just
If
trolling
we're only
Chilbro.
doing Americas, we're so fucked. This guy doesn't even know who's in the Super Bowl, and we're expecting him to know about Americas. Not
so
a real
Kurt's-
American patriot.
Kurt's picked out some of the best matches of the week, and we're gonna go through our preds for them, and then talk a bit about like justifying our predictions, talking about why they're such big matches, that kind of thing. So let's just launch straight into the first one. I think this is the first game that's being played across the entirety of the year. First game of the season, NRG versus Furia, which is a great way to kick things off. Where are people gone with this one?
Surely it's a guarantee.
Yeah.
This is a great way to see the NRG win 2-0 with MW0 being the only player that goes positive, and it's about to be like 13-9, 13-7. You know what I
feel
mean?
like Furia, like this season, all I'm like looking for, I think we've talked about this before, but it's just like MW Zera beat the allegations of being the one player who goes double positive while the entirety of his team sits on their thumbs and goes double negative while trying to support him, and they promptly lose. Like, I feel like it's such a curse with teams of this core that stuff like that is always happening, and you're really hoping they'll break it. And then they're playing NRG first round. But I'm still excited for this match. I feel like the big reason to watch it is just like this is the NRG debut. This is Demon 1 playing and Ethan playing with this new roster for the first time. This is the Optic core, minus obviously Finesse and Ye, coming back together with Marv getting back into active competitive play together with Crashies and Victor, who have been together forever. This is the first test for Ethan as this new IGL to see what they've cooked up in the offseason, how well he's going to do in that primary caller role, and also just the MVP player of last year all coming together in this match. I think no matter who NRG drew, I would have been excited to watch their first match.
I think they're going to be running some double initiator stuff for sure as well. So much of last year's meta was defined by this double controller stuff, and I think with the Sky nerfs, I just don't see how people are going to be able to get away with running solo initiator all over the place. So I think we're set up for like a real serious meta shift here into double initiator, and my god, what a like roster to try and carry that forwards with Crashies and Ethan on the team. And that's absurd if you're going to be running double initiator, and that does become the meta, and it's something weird like, you know, Gecko Breach or Gecko Sky or something like that. I think it's going to cook.
I mean, remember, like, this core, when it was, like, Crashies and Victor on the team, they were, like, the best team when we were, like, in kind of the brunt of, like, everyone playing double initiator. I have a lot of faith in Chet as an IGL to cook up some really creative stuff with this kind of shift in the meta.
I have a lot of faith in Victor is going to play Raze and have very good initiator support, and Demon 1 is going to go play Chamber and go crazy. I mean, if you want to pull up Demon 1's VLR cart and just see how many rounds of Chamber he was playing in Knights weeklies.
After, by the way,
It's
I think did he ever play it
for
last
the
year?
audio listeners at
He
home.
did. He played some on Bind last year, I think.
But only a few matches.
Yeah, barely.
Like,
Yeah, I
the
feel like it
vast
was, like, one or
majority
two.
of that is just like grinding his ass off in like VCL Sunday Cups for $5, playing 900 rounds in a day. Like, he was born and bred for this moment, for Chamber to be back.
Yeah.
Jeez. I did not realize that number was so high. 3,090 is insane in probably 6 months or a year or whatever. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the most exciting part, right? Is that this core and the coaching has always been exciting to watch for meta shifts. And then now, obviously, Return of Marv, and then Ethan and Demon One. Like it's just gonna be exciting no matter what. Even if it's like a one-sided game, I think I should be excited if you care about Pro Valorant and the meta shift and what we have to look forward to. So yeah, I mean, NRG I think is going to be a very fun team to watch.
All right, so let's move on to something that is a little more even. I think we might even be split on the predictions here, because I think this has to be like match of the opening matches. I don't. Kurt's leveled it match of the week, but I think that's valid. Oh, what is this breaking news?
Breaking news.
You're just playing random overlays
Breaking
now,
news,
Kurt?
I pressed the wrong button.
Okay. Well, the next matchup from Americas is Loud versus Sentinel. Match of the week. Loud
Sentinel.
versus Sentinels. One Sentinel. Ooh. It's only me going for Loud.
Man.
Okay.
Oh man. It's so funny because when I was doing my picks, I just knew that Josh would pick Loud. And I was like, well, I'm split really 50-50, and I just wasn't sure if I wanted to make this vote half and half or not. But for me, I mean, here's the thing is that I think Loud's going to need more time to really gel. I mean, I think they're always going to be a top-tier team. I think in the long run, right, they're always going to be a world-beater team. But in the opening match against Sentinels, like, they have been looking so good. Obviously, you guys have talked about it. I've talked about it, whether it's AVL or other off-season stuff. And it's not like they're lacking in the firepower department, I would say. And, especially nothing against Quick, but Aspas was just obviously always on this whole another level. So not having that to deal with from Sentinel's side, I think is huge. Their calling has looked better and better. It's just Sentinels has shown us everything that you would have wanted to see from a team that needed to improve to like jump that tier, the IGLing, the overall tone and mannerism. And if this was like a BO5 and it's like a double limb, then I would probably favor Loud just because of the mentality they've always been able to show under Sadok's leadership. But it's not. It's an opening match. So I think that, Sentinels with the vibes and everything, they're just going to carry it through.
Yeah, talk about vibes. They made what I think is definitely the right decision and are officially carrying on with Zelsis, making him on the main roster for this season. And holy shit, if someone is going to bring the vibes, it's going to be this guy. He's so good at getting a team energized, at kind of being a secondary caller, an emotional leader to help out the team. I think we've really seen this squad start to gel with John QT's style and is getting to a place where the team is finally working. And well, there's there was all the weirdness behind the scenes of Pancata being dropped and or not being dropped, being benched and all of that, which kind of adds another layer to it. But I do feel like this roster has just been playing so well in the off season, and with the early momentum of it being the first match, I have to have more faith in them than the new build Loud.
Yeah, as far as Rob was saying in the interview that I did with him that Pancata was having a bunch of troubles with visa issues as well, and that was kind of just giving an opportunity for Zelsis to play and practice. And yeah, I mean, it was what you're saying. I mean, just the mentality. Like he was bringing up one of the games that they were playing in the off-season tournament against G2, where they were mad down at the half, and then were able to make a huge comeback that was off the back of the Zelsis. Mentality, what he was offering to the team.
No one else is going to be
server.
willing to be fined $5,000 to bring the team's vibe back.
Yeah.
No one else does it like Zelsis.
And you're so right. But I think it's also just, I would love to know why you go with Loud here, Josh. And it's not a knock in any way on the talent or certainly how good they could be, but there's just too much evidence of Sentinels being one of the top teams and Loud are just a question mark. So I've gone safe, which typically that's your move, boring and safe. So yeah. I want to know why you've not gone with boring and safe.
Well, I feel like I've tried to go for a boring and safe approach. Sorry, I was double speaking to you.
Yeah.
I tried to go for a boring and safe approach here because the way that I was thinking about it was, we've got a lot of evidence of Sentinels being really good. And
am I the only one hearing this?
No,
bullshit.
What? What are you hearing?
We heard two Joshes.
I mean,
Alien
you're
Josh.
trolling. Robot voice.
Why? What have I trolled?
Fine, you're fine.
You're fine now.
Oh, right. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I was trying to go safe. But here's the safety that I'm running towards, which is that I know that Loud's core have been excellent. They're probably the most consistent core of all time in Valorant. They don't lose to many people, and yes, that's been with Aspas the entire time. But I think it's not just Aspas. They were never a team that got carried by Aspas. They always had very good creativity. They always had very good team play, and they've always had other really big fraggers. I mean, particularly I'm looking towards Les and Cow and Zine on this roster now. And I think that in the past, what I've done a lot of is gotten entranced with people's performance over the offseason and forgotten about teams like Loud, who have just been, solidly capable the entire time. And so I've gone for a approach of trying to go for the pick'ems based on what I've seen of the teams from last year. Now, Sentinels are a weird one, though, because we've seen so much of their improvement. We know that it wasn't just a flash in the pan in one tournament. We know that they've made serious improvements, serious role changes, created an identity. They're going to be way better than they were last year. I think it's super reasonable to pick Sentinels in this opening game. I think it's really reasonable to have Sentinels going all the way to Madrid, even, if that was your pick throughout the pick'ems. But I'm going to give Sadak the benefit of the doubt here and just believe in him until we see the Empire crumble, essentially.
Sure.
Because I feel like he's deserved it at this point. He's deserved at least some bald idiot believing in him, even if the rest of you don't.
I mean, I think that's fair. I thought it was really 50-50, and I would agree a big part of that is Sadak and Les, and even Cowan Zine up to a point in terms of...
He's literally Gecko. He's ready for this meta.
That is so good.
He was playing Gecko. He was one of the people playing the most Gecko
even like
last year.
last
I could see
season.
that.
He's built for it. He's built for it. My biggest thing, though, is... Like, I think Sonic and Les, absolutely you trust him, and I think Cowan Zine as an individual and is somewhat as a team member, I think it's totally valid to trust in him. I just don't know if, based on what we've seen from Sentinels during the offseason, if Tui's and Quick can be, like, at that level as well to provide that consistency. Like, that's where I kept leaning back towards Sentinels, right? Is that, okay, sure, reasonable. Like, I think Les and Sadak are always going to hold their ground. They're always going to be able to beat anyone else on the other team, whether it's, in a 1v1 or in the mind games. But then I just, Tui's and Quick, I'm like, I mean, they're great players, but Sentinels has been looking like they've just been freed from whatever chains that have been holding them down individually as well. And I think they start to just soar above us, part of that Loud roster.
I also think that some of these opening games are going to be defined by who has the better read on what's actually powerful right now. Like when you have a long off season and then you come into it, Kurt is cackling.
He's making himself cackle.
Look at this fucking
It's pretty good.
It is good. I think some of it's going to be defined by who has the better ideas, and I think Loud have always shown very, very strong understanding of ideas in Valorant. So I think it's going to be a great game, though. Probably the best of the opening.
Counterpoint.
Yeah.
Aspas is gone. Who's the next best player in the world? Tens. He's on the team. Sentinels is winning.
Right. Okay. Yep. I follow that logic train.
Yep.
I would suggest as well, Josh, when you're saying what it's going to come down to, that part of it will also come down to the comfortability of the players on the team and the roles, as both teams are integrating new players in that way. We don't know who's going to be playing Duelist for Loud. Is it going to be Quick? He's played it before. Is it going to be Tui's? He's played it before. Is it even going to be less, potentially, because of, just hearing how good he's been also on Duelist? Now, that probably is the least likely option, but that does open the possibility for... I mean, it's not even the possibility. People are going to be role swapping, essentially no matter what, unless it's just kind of Quick coming in on Duelist, which is also a big question mark, because they've never had to play with a different Duelist in the entirety of the Loud run. So I think the comfortability between teammates and roles is going to be another big factor here. But even with three of us going Sentinels and myself going Sentinels, it's definitely not a big favorite situation. I can't imagine, unless somehow Loud are really struggling with figuring out what to do with this roster, which I can't imagine, because they do have a lot of options as far as roles. It's just finding the one that makes the most sense for them, that's the most comfortable. But I mean, you can't imagine Sentinels are a huge favorite. It really, to me, is just the safety pick.
Dude, what an awesome match this is going to be, though. Getting Sassy against his former team, where arguably he's the favorite, that didn't happen at all last year. It's a pity that Pancada's sat out on the bench for the opening matchup against Loud, but it's going to be a banger of a match. The stories just write themselves. They got this group is absolutely stacked, so it means that winning this game actually matters a huge amount compared to the opening matches maybe in some other groups, because you don't want to go down and have to, maybe beat Leviathan or beat the same team again in order to get out of the group later on. It's going to be nuts. I think this is going to be a banger of a game.
I mean, it's very rare you get to see what, like 6 international champions and like a lot of world champions in the same thing. You get the majority of the Loud team that won champs playing against each other. You get Saucy in there. It's just going to be so exciting also. And for Sen fans, I think this is like the first time since 2021 having hope and belief in your team is like, you might actually get something for it. Like, this is the first time that, like, Sentinels is legitimately a contender to be a top team in the league. And that is so exciting after so long of them just being, like, the clout org, the funny team. Like, they actually have an insanely talented roster here. And so does Loud. I mean, I think if Sidak can, like, build a team with rookies from pretty much scratch after having his, like, best player leave, twice in a row, that would be fucking insane if he could just pull it off again and create another top level team. Like, just undisputed GOAT if he can make this Loud have the same success he always has been able to do. So yeah, super cool whoever wins this one. I think it's going to be insanely close.
Okay, let's move on to the next game then, and just let's just follow Aspas, shall we? We'll go from watching the previous match of all of the other Loud players clashing against each other. Moving on to Leviathan versus 100 Thieves. There is a massive favorite here, and we've all gone for it. It's Leviathan. What do you think the chances of an upset here are?
I honestly don't think they're terrible. Just because Lev, I mean, I'm not going to say it was totally unnecessarily, though it obviously felt like that making a change last second. So if you want to do the turmoil speculation shit, you can. I'm not weighing into that as much as 100 Thieves having more time now with Boostio. You're going to imagine that they're going to be, to some extent, I mean, certainly better than they were in their first showing at the Ludwig Tarek tournament.
Yeah.
Cryo playing. I don't know if Chamber buff is good. Is the Chamber buff going to be?
It's on the PBU,
not.
so
I
we
hope
don't even
not.
know what packets in.
Imagine if they add it like a day before America.
I mean, would that be shocking to anybody? I mean,
Not really.
Not really. Don't say yes, Mimi, because you're wrong. it's no, actually, is the answer.
I mean, if they
that
did
would not
it
be
now,
shocking.
the sky change was already ridiculous. If they did it now, it would be just disgusting. But yeah, I feel like to sow doubts, what Leviathan is doing here is something that we've never really seen done, at least in like the North America, like America's region, in NA, putting together a like completely international roster. You have players who have spoken Spanish as a primary language while playing, spoken Portuguese as a primary language while playing, and spoken American as a primary language while playing. Now all have to come together and play under one language, under one banner, get used to competing with each other. There's a lot to adjust to in this roster. And as we've seen constantly over Valorant, teams that have insane talent but don't have a core coming together, it takes a lot of time to find that identity, to find that style. And I think a lot of this comes down to, since we haven't seen Lev really at all in this offseason, is what identity do they have? What is their read on the meta? How are these players going to mesh together? It should be a top level roster. It should be a world beater, but there's so much that can go wrong when you're building a roster from scratch like this, that there's never a guarantee that they can get a win, especially against 100 Thieves that I think made some good moves in the offseason, picking up Boostio, building a new system there. They also have to do that, but they still have this core of 3 players that have been playing together for years, and players that are at least very familiar with each other, that I think they are in a place that if something's going wrong in the Leviathan camp, there definitely is potential for an upset, but I still see it as pretty unlikely.
Speaking back to those interviews by Pedro Romero, there was one with the new head coach of 100 Thieves, Zix.
Zeeks, yeah.
Yeah, and he was that interview was pretty illuminating because he was talking about he thought that one of the biggest problems with 100 Thieves last year, I mean, possibly from having consulted the team too, was just that they had a bit of a fear of failure. They didn't want to go for things in the same way that EG did. And he was talking also about Mike's specializing in working on the defensive strats as like his little area of expertise. Obviously, the whole team's going to be participating, but that being something that they're particularly working on, which I think is an interesting idea, but more so trying to rebrand the entire roster as being unafraid of taking risks and trying to use some of that, like, you know, the EG improvisational playbook where things really did look coordinated and at times looked like set plays, even though they were just stringing shit together because the players just had such a good understanding of how to help each other. If 100 Thieves can try to nail that kind of stuff down, that's gonna completely 180 the way that they were playing. You couldn't find a more passive team from last year, a more scared team to try and teach how to play aggressively.
It was driving me nuts watching them last year. Still, though, when we're talking about the potential team chaos and that kind of devolving, depending on how true that ends up being for Leviathan. Also, though, 100 Thieves had more time with Busio. You know, it's up an immense amount of time. And at the end of the day, even still watching them in the Ludwig Tarek tournament, it's not like they were putting up insane individual performances. Asuna had one or two really good raise maps. Busio was playing pretty well. You know, Cryo had a couple of the moments, but I don't know. It's not like you were watching a team where you're saying, "Holy shit, they can stack up individually to Lev." It's just not.
And that's one of Lev's biggest strengths,
not
isn't it?
the case. Yeah, I mean, if things devolve, I can't see 100 Thieves being the team that is on top in the chaos. It certainly wasn't the case last year. So if they need major improvements in that department, and Lev need to be not as well-rounded as, you know, maybe they were in their previous in their off-season tournament that they played. But you know, we shall see. Tough to imagine the upsets coming.
I will just add this. I think one of the other reasons that this is exciting, and one of the reasons to be excited for 100 Thieves, is going off of what we've talked about with the roster and coaching staff change. I think they're another team that has really good potential to pave the way in the meta, and how they analyze the game and how they evolve, especially with the potential patches coming out, not just for Kickoff, but in the future as well. So, I mean, there's hope, I think, of seeing a taste of that. But I mean, I guess the reason I chose Leviathan is I just thought that it wouldn't be enough time just yet for 100 Thieves to like showcase the final product of all these changes, like stylistically and meta and comps and all that. But I think they're going to, for me, I'm very hopeful that they're going to be an exciting team to follow in 2024, because I think they're going to add a lot of ideas into it, whether it's just the agent choices or the way they play them, obviously, given that it's Boostio and Zeke's coming over from EG as well.
Leviathan have also got an insanely tough group, right? This is coming off the back of the Loud Sentinels game. How hard would Leviathan have to be beating the piss out of 100 Thieves for you to be confident that they're going to, you know, live up to their standards? Finesse was talking about the fact that because of the way in which the rosters have been created, NRG and Lev just basically can't lose. They're not allowed to lose because they've been built to win. They've been built to be super teams in North America. So, in theory, you should be kind of wanting Leviathan to wipe the floor in this match in order to feel positive about the fact that that's going to come true.
I don't agree. I think it's fine if they get a close win against 100 Thieves. I think 100 Thieves should be good enough to hang but lose and go 0-2 in this group, sadly. But I think they should be good enough to hang with these teams, but not good enough to provide an end result that satiates their desperate fucking unnourished fans. But I really don't care if Lev get a close win. I think that's fine.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, for not because I'm coping for 100 Thieves, but instead just because I think it's the roster's first ever match. Not real. It doesn't exist. It's your first ever match as a team. Not real. It is. I feel like it is the easiest fucking cope in the world if you have a close win, or even if you lose this, to be like, whatever, dog. First match as a team, we made some mistakes. We'll learn from it. We'll come back stronger and be in our best form. I think it's fine if it's a close game. It gives them the time to kind of get acquainted to playing a match together, to get into the kind of right headspace for the season. And I almost judge them more by that second match and how well they do than that first one. I think I see this as they should be winning it, but they should also not be going out there with the pressure of we need to absolutely shit on 100 Thieves. It should instead just be, hey, we need to beat these guys and learn as much as we can early on because we're in the beginning stages of building out this team.
All right. Well, the next group is a battle for who plays against evil geniuses and whether or not they can do the unthinkable and make it to Madrid. So even though it's not exactly a banger of a match, I think it deserves a bit of a preview. So let's go into it. It's Crew versus G2. This is the LCQ winner against the Ascension winner from the Americas. And we've all gone with G2. I'm really high on G2. I'm actually very hopeful that they can be a top middle of the pack team and be competing with some of the serious heavy hitters in Americas, but that doesn't seem to be the most kind of common take about this team. So even though you've all predicted them, where do you fall on their likelihood of being able to make a deep run? I mean, they've got an easy group.
Yeah.
I don't care about off-season overreaction. Mimi, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, based, I was going to say for G2, I feel pretty high up about this team. I feel like we obviously know it's a known quantity of what this core can do. They've been really good for a while. I don't believe in the offseason. I think that's based, and they've had time to kind of come up with their ideas for what they want to do this season. They have a coach and they have an IGL who I have a lot of faith in being able to kind of find the right read in this offseason, and having Leaf as one of the most flexible and honestly, second best performing individual player of last season out of Americas. He's insanely talented. They've had a lot of time to make him work in this roster. I have so much faith in G2 in this matchup, and honestly in this group too. I think they should win out in this group against an EG that's kind of just coming together in kind of weird circumstances, and against this Crew team who I now want to turn our attention to them. And Josh, I want you to talk about our good friends Crew for a second, because last year you famously said you wanted them to fail and get crushed in LCQ so they would make the proper roster changes to be better this season. They won LCQ. They only made one roster change. Are they fucked?
I think they should have tried to change more of the roster than they did. I think having Melsa be the IGL but still keeping Klaus on the team doesn't make too much sense to me. But I mean, they did make some reasonable roster changes. I think they've been hit pretty hard with losing. I mean, hit pretty hard in multiple ways, right? Emotionally too, but with losing Davies for sure. But I think that adding Shy to the team, Shy is a really good player, and I think also making the replacement for Nags is a really important thing too. So they have made some level of changes. I wanted them to go even harder and try to rebuild the team a little further. What if they did it though? What if they went on a run and Kickoff?
I mean, how much?
Like
harder?
they don't have to. They don't have to do too much. They have to beat G2. They have to beat EG, and then they just have to win one game against a good team. They could go on a run, show, bro. They could go on a run.
I struggle with the one win.
Yeah,
against a good team.
Yep, that's where I stopped.
Run.
I was all on board for the groups, and then you said the one game against a good team, and I was like, wait, hold on.
Okay, but it might not even be like
true. I mean, I don't know.
What if G2 won the play-in? I mean, like if Crew won against G2, and then G2 beat EG, and then G2 won the play-in. No, wait, that's backwards.
No,
they're not.
Crew would be playing against a good team. That would be bad.
that would shuffle the whole group.
Yeah. So they're playing against a good team no matter what. They're if they get out of the groups even. So I think it stops there. But I don't.
So you're saying it's impossible? You're saying that they can't go on a run?
I mean, listen, I don't think they can go on a run. I mean, I'm probably not going to be on the show after this happens. Whatever.
I mean, Can you consider winning 2 games as going on a run?
No,
I
absolutely
don't think
not.
that's going
No.
on a run. That's just
No.
exceeding expectations.
When you're in a group with the Ascension team, no offense to G2, I think they're really good. I've already hyped them up. But you're against the newest team in the league and the EG that imploded in the offseason. Winning 2 is cool. That's impressive for Crew. Not a fucking run.
Right, but if they
Yeah.
made it to Madrid, if they actually got out of the group,
well.
and
But
then,
they're not
you know,
making it to how? Okay. So in my mind, the teams that are also going to be in the playoffs: NRG, maybe Cloud9, Leviathan, Sentinels, and probably like G2 or EG. Or G2? Sorry, who are they beating? Who are they
well,
beating to make
they
it to
did better
Madrid?
than Sentinels at LCQ. They did better than
No,
Leviathan
they
at
don't.
LCQ.
That works. Sentinels and Leviathan, they're fucking super teams now, Josh.
Yeah, and Crew now has Shy. I mean,
Shy.
how are they not a super team?
Which, by the way, I hard agree that Shy is a great addition to this team. I think that's a huge improvement, but not enough.
Yeah, but
No,
some of these other
I
teams are
don't think so.
upgrading by like picking up Ospas.
Yeah. Exactly. No, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty reasonable.
I'm also kind of surprised that apparently you said that it seems like a lot of people aren't that high on G2 because I don't know. I was also very
Yeah.
high on G2 when I was doing the picks here for our podcast today. So
Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's necessarily people on our podcast. I think we are fairly high on G2. But when I
Sure.
hear other pro players talking about it or other like discussions about who the top teams are, people generally seem to have G2 towards the bottom of the middle of the pack, which I suppose is not a massive difference. But yeah, the community consensus does not seem to be as high as I would think on the team that won Ascension, defined the best meta on Haven, has just picked up Leaf, who was the second best player of Americas last year. You know, there's a lot of reasons to be pretty excited about this team.
Yeah, definitely. And to take it back to, I think, the first point you made, Josh, that they didn't make enough roster moves. I agree. But also, who do they get? South America is trapped in their own region outside of what's going on in Los Angeles, and the ability for the Tier 2 NA teams to practice against all of the teams in partnership. I mean, if you're looking at... I'm not well versed enough in the South American scene, but, you know, doesn't seem like there's a lot of options from what I've looked at. If they go over and try to, sign someone from Brazil, doesn't seem like there's a lot of options, and those players seemed far more inclined, if they were ever offered something by Crew reached out to go to one of the Brazilian teams. So where do these guys even look at this point, right? I mean, unless
the main thing you've got to go for, I think, is I would have liked to see them try to really aggressively hunt for Nozwa once he was dropped to the bench and Crew came on. I think that was just an absolute like slam dunk. That the upgrade there would have been unbelievable, like an actually unbelievable upgrade for Crew.
What's Messi's net worth?
Yeah, exactly.
It should be enough to pay for Nozwa.
It's 1.15 billion. I mean, he could get. I mean, he should be able to get Nozwa. That's
he could drop Nozwa's salary out of his wallet and wouldn't bend down to pick it up. Like he'll be fine. And surely
It'll be
Messi
very
is
fun.
like bankrolling the entirety of the organization with no thought to his personal
Exactly.
finances, right? He's just
Certainly.
told them they have access to his entire net worth.
Yeah, I mean, a 2.5 season deal with Miami for 150 million. I mean, listen.
Yeah.
I heard Nozwa was
This
only
should be
going for
doable.
120 mil. That's pocket change.
Okay, so shall we do? Let's fill out the rest of the Americas pick'ems then, rather than going through all of the different regions. But we've already gone through some of the big matches, so some of the others should be a little easier, I think, because they're the more one-sided ones. Like for example, Cloud9 MIBR. Is there any justification for going for MIBR here?
Nope.
Okay, let's move on. So Fury at MIBR. Again, can
Furia.
anyone sell MIBR? I mean, it's not like we're massively hot on Fury either, right? But they look like a more talented roster, I think.
I think, honestly, I think the most reasonable pitch here is Oftentimes, the regional matchups end in results that you would not expect based on what they do against the other teams, but because they know each other very well, the lesser team can often get the advantage. And I think the clear advantage for MIBR is the hopeful notion that they have rectified the lack of teamwork they had in the previous season. And from what we've seen from Furia so far, the team play does not look like their strong suit. So if that has remained the case, and if MIBR have done what they set out to do in the offseason, I think that's probably the best pitch you could get for this.
Yeah, especially with Fraud and Bazooka on the coaching staff. I mean, they should be trying to tighten up the teamwork element of it.
In fact, I'm almost inclined to pick MIBR in this.
Here's-
as
Yeah,
wild
thinking
as
of the
that may
coaching
be.
staff.
Yeah, maybe.
Guys, don't let the coaching staff narrative get you.
It's
Don't
not
let the
about- I
coaching
don't-
staff narrative get you.
That's not my narrative.
It's my
It
narrative.
hasn't gone there. It's not my narrative. I'm going with the other narrative.
Okay, the other narrative got
I
you.
think it's reasonable.
Okay.
I still don't. I think at the end of the day, I'm not impressed with the way that team was. I'm not impressed with the way that Mazine tends to call, and I don't think that is going to be good enough to get them across the line, even against a Furia that doesn't look amazing. I mean, Furia's still got a lot of talent. As much as their players do tend to have bad stats at the end, like they've got good people there. Khalil, very skilled. Havoc, very skilled. MW, super skilled.
Yeah.
I think they're just going to be able to walk through.
Yeah, it's an all Brazil matchup. MW's there is going to be dropping some shit in Portuguese in the alt chat, and he's going to drop 60 on these
Dropping
guys.
Some shit.
Is he a shit
mean,
talker?
say-
I have
know
no
who he
idea.
is.
I have no idea, but
Yeah.
I'm choosing to say he is, and he's going to own these frauds. But also counterpoint, I don't feel like this match is going to matter much because in my mind, I think either of these teams lose to Cloud9.
Okay. Well,
There.
let's.
Yeah,
What are we going for then? Is anyone else with Wyatt on MIBR?
I mean, I am, but I don't think it matters. So
Well, we're
mostly
split
just because I was
2
so
It's up to
disappointed.
Kurt.
With, sure, yeah. I was
we-
so
we
disappointed
flip a
with Furia
coin.
at a.
All right,
version.
The
that's
coin's coming out
reasonable.
so early. For a match, as Mimi says, that probably doesn't actually influence the outcome. of the
I
game.
really don't think that's necessarily true. I don't think they just depending on. I mean, Kurt, flip it while I'm yapping. But
we have to declare who's who. So
Heads
Furia,
MIBR.
there
okay.
you go.
heads.
It's
And
tails.
it's
Okay.
Furia
Furia
going through.
won.
I mean, I really don't think it's it's certainly not unreasonable to
No, I agree
expect
with you.
that the winner of this game could beat Cloud9.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
no.
yeah. I mean, let's just lock NRG in at the top, right?
Of course,
We're expecting
sure.
them to beat Cloud9.
Of
If they,
course.
I mean, there's always a chance that this project from NRG fails early on and they take a while to grow into themselves. But I think it's
Yeah.
unlikely, and it seems unreasonable to bet against it, given the talent on the team and the coaching staff and the core that they have. But just throwing that out there, it's not a guarantee. But
Yeah.
all right, Cloud9 Furia though, that is a closer game. I really think that's close.
Yeah, I don't know. This Cloud9 roster, though, they played a lot during the offseason. We saw them do some good stuff. We saw them flop a little bit at Ludwig Tarek, but I kind of want to not fixate on that too much and instead just look at this roster. You have you have Vanity coming back in for. Is this the third time he's starting as an IGL for Cloud9? It feels like it's been a ridiculous amount of plus Vanity minus Vanity.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Well,
that is true. That is true.
Is it though?
Or was it only
Isn't
once
it t-
before?
I thought it was just one leaving and rejoining. Because he was.
Oh, because he was.
Yeah, I think
version
it
one
was just once
for the
before.
longest
It was
before,
version
yeah.
1 that had a similar kind of core to what became
Yeah.
Cloud9, which is why I was thinking that.
Maybe I'm misremembering though.
No, it was only once for sure. But yeah, Vanity's back.
I mean, if you look at the match history, actually, they played against each other twice at the Superdome. Once where Cloud9 won, once where Furia won. So if you want some indication of whether or not this is going to be close, you could have a look at that. The most recent map was Furia beating Cloud9 13-2 on Breeze, just kind of wiping the floor with them. I'm more inclined to think that it's Cloud9's to win or lose. I think that if Cloud9 have come up with some good ideas and have a nice understanding of what they want to do, I think that team's good enough to be able to beat them. But there's just threats being thrown out by Furia. And a lot of that, from what I've seen in the offseason, is based on aggression and fragging rather than having any great support system or great macro ideas as well. So sometimes you can just wake up and the Furia players are killing everybody, and Cloud9 are going to lose this game.
Furia haven't had a bad offseason by any means either. I mean, the two most convincing losses they had were to Lev and Vitality. Those which are two top teams that we're expecting to, at the very least, make international events. Cloud9 were definitely dealing with the fatigue as the offseason went on, so if you want to look more towards the middle when Whippy came back just after the tournament with Curry, probably the most reasonable time to put weight in the actual results, given they were traveling around the world doing the global tour for however many months that was.
Yeah, a ton of time.
I'm going with this as extremely close, enough that it's very hard for me to call. I'm not allowed to just vouch for a coin flip, right? That's not an option.
I'm actually so down to
Because
coin
I-
flip this. I'm so down to coin flip this.
Okay, so two
I
abstains.
do abstain, yeah.
Okay, Chobra, you've got the chance to just
Wow.
decide, basically.
Well, I mean, that means we're just going to a coin flip anyway, because we're going to tie at best with coin flips versus a team. So it's just it's
right. Well,
irrelevant.
Yeah.
You're saying
Yeah.
that coin
Yeah,
flip
yeah.
counts as its
Kirk
own
can decide
third
to not-
category. It's not just an
exactly.
abstain, it's actually
No,
a vote
it's-
for the coin.
Yeah,
Oh, well, okay.
I love the
Just
coin.
Flip it.
we can abstain. We'll abstain. I think that's more fair, actually. If you guys both pick a team, we'll
Sure,
go with that. Team.
that's
that,
Chobra,
I
what are you
mean-
thinking?
I was leaning towards Cloud9, and I still am.
That's unfortunate because I was also leaning a slight bit towards Cloud9, only a very
All
small
right,
bit,
they
but I
take
do
it.
kind
They
of.
take it.
I wish we'd gone for the coin now.
We
Yeah.
still can. We still can. We could
See if the
ask
coin agrees,
universe.
Kurt. See if the coin
Let's
agrees.
just see. Yeah, let's just see.
We'll say Cloud9 tails. Cloud9 tails. Oh fuck.
Oh fuck! It's heads.
Well, we've got to stand by what we said, but we're wrong.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next group then. Group B. So we've already picked Sentinels over Loud, and we've already picked Leviathan over 100 Thieves. So that sets us up with an elimination match of Loud versus 100 Thieves.
Oh god.
It's 100 Thieves. It's just 100. I truly believe they will be getting reasonably close. Or sorry, I misspoke. They're going to be getting reasonably close losses. I mean, Loud
Yeah.
are winning, and 100 Thieves.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
You guys didn't let me finish my sentence.
Dude, this is
They're
the episode
losing.
where we lose the last iota of respect Brazil had for us if we had said Loud going out immediately.
No, yeah. Let me finish my goddamn sentence. 100 Thieves they're losing, but it's going to be close, and
Okay.
it's a wrap, and everyone's going
I
to
can
feel
see that.
bad, and then you're going to be like, but it was close, and then it's going to be that whole thing again.
And
Loud are
it
winning.
is a super tough group. Yeah. Is everyone in agreement? Loud go through that
Yes.
one?
Yes.
Okay.
No doubters.
All right, Sentinels Leviathan though, up
Oh,
towards the
fuck.
top there. And if you've already got faith in Sentinels to beat Loud, I feel like you have to have faith in them to beat Leviathan too, because it's the same kind of thing. It's like a question mark against a team that you know is looking like a top contender. Yes,
Yeah.
Lev have played some off-season events where Loud haven't, but you haven't seen them play with Com. You haven't seen them play a lot. What are
I
your
honestly
thoughts?
think Sentinels is going to go to Madrid. I think, in my opinion, in Americas right now, they are the most known quantity. They are the team that I think has played a ton of offseason together, that has actually had a lot of time to come up with ideas and fix their shit and form an identity, where a lot of these other teams, well, their rosters look excellent, don't get me wrong, they're coming out and they're kind of debuting their new ideas, their new rosters for the very first time in this season, and there's a very real possibility any of these teams flop. I think there's also a very real possibility that it's just expected and Leviathan and Gen.G show up and they're excellent and they go to Madrid. But I really feel like Sentinels is in a position where they're coming out with so much time and practice to put something excellent together. Well, Leviathan was just recently bringing in Com and has all this kind of background stuff going together where they're only now just figuring out their identity. I really feel like Sentinels is a safe choice here.
It's still been a month and a
So-
half that Leviathan have had to play together. And just because we haven't seen their improvement doesn't mean that they haven't been improving behind the
Yeah,
scenes.
but at the same time, do you want to bet on what you haven't seen or what we have seen and what has been like what we know has been months of work into this iteration of Sentinels?
Well, I mean, we haven't seen NRG at all, and yet we're still punting for them.
Right. And,
Yeah,
and
but that's
here's-
because their group's easier.
Well, here's the thing. Sentinels are going to have a 50-50 chance at
They
playing...
win or they lose. It's 50-50.
Me, when I can never finish a sentence. They're either going to play 50-50 against NRG or the team from Group C, who they will definitely beat. Because we're going to assume that Loud or Leviathan are going to win the play-in. And it's not even an assumption. They're going to. Because the second team is either going to be, like Cloud9 or Furia, and then, like a G2 or EG or Crew, who are going to lose to Loud or Lev. So they're either playing against NRG or the team from Group C. If it's a team from Group C, they're 100% going. And if it's NRG, then, it's the situation Mimi's talking about. Yeah, where we don't know how good NRG are actually going to be, and we can trust that Sentinels are going to be good. So again, it's just... and Mimi's changed. It's now facts over feelings. So with the facts on our side, I think we have to go with the Sentinels.
Okay, I mean...
Sentinels don't care about your feelings. You're so fucking right. You're so
Chobra.
fucking right.
I mean,
Chobra,
I was
what
going
are
to go
your
with my
thoughts?
feels, which was leaning towards Leviathan, but apparently my feelings don't matter here.
No, you're allowed to go with your feelings. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, to me, to voice my 2 cents, I think the difference between the matchup with Loud and Leviathan is, to me, Loud seems like it's bound to happen at some point where Loud will become like that value that we think they're going to always become, right? They've always had that consistency of growing, etc. But it's a matter of time. Whereas Leviathan, I just feel like, in some weird theory, has higher potential, but it's very unknown. Like, it's a bigger question mark, but it's bigger, right? Like, the question mark itself is bigger. So that's where I'm like, if Leviathan does perform, right, to the hopes that everyone has, and I think actually they have a better shot than Loud during kickoff, specifically playing against Sentinels. So that's where I'm leaning towards that.
Boy, oh boy. Yeah. I don't know what to
Those
go for.
are my feelings.
I think this is just... I think this is an outrageous game, but I don't know which direction to send it.
Do you care about facts or feelings, Josh? That's the question.
What facts are you talking about?
We've
You just
just
mean the
spent-
fact that
we've
Sentinels
spent-
beat teams that... But they didn't play any teams that were as good as Leviathan
Paper
throughout that...
Rex?
Paper Rex with
Paper
Jing?
Rex, dude, Paper Rex
beat
were
them
fucking
twice.
sending it, man. They were sending
And
it.
they
This
always
wasn't the
are.
Paper Rex of...
Yeah, they
No.
definitely don't do that in tournaments. We've never seen them send it.
Dude, they were
God, this guy's all
deliberately
feelings.
tossing the off-season tournaments. Paper Rex had not practiced for the off-season tournaments. They came in, they fucked around with a player that's going to be gone next year.
And they found out.
Yeah,
The
they
Sentinels
found
are
out.
the fucking guys. Dude, Wyatt, isn't it so depressing to see Josh fall? He used to be such
know.
a man who espouted logic, and now he's all
Insane
about the feelings.
gaslighting.
Now
Insane
he's all about the
gaslighting
feelings.
and
That's-
manipulation from this
That's
side of the
not
room.
gaslighting at all.
It's just true.
This is coming from the guy who was excited to watch Gambit beat Crazy Raccoon. Oh, the expected result is going to be amazing in
but
this
I don't know what the expected result is here.
one-sided game.
I don't know what the expected result is here. That's the problem. All
Right,
right, I'm gonna go with Sentinels, so the coin doesn't have any more influence. Because I do think that you've got some very good arguments, and I agree that if you already have them beaten Loud, then it is the same kind of logic to have them beaten Leviathan.
Finally,
Reasonable?
some facts.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's not
Sure.
a fact, though. It's not a fact. It's a fucking punt.
Oh, here we
It's
go
got-
again.
The only thing that they share is that it's the same number of letters in the word. That's it. That's the only thing. All right. Lower bracket. Lower bracket. Leviathan versus Loud. I mean, that is an
Wowee.
outrageous game.
Wow.
No matter how this works out, this bracket, like this group,
This group
ridiculous.
is going to be so good, no matter
Yeah.
what.
This is also the better version of the group. Like, if we see a rematch of Loud Sentinels again, I don't think that's as fun as seeing Lev Loud. I mean, these are two unknowns, so where are your facts now?
There are none.
I have no facts here. And I then turn to the feelings expert. Chobra,
Okay,
who's winning
Chobra.
this match?
Oh, wow, finally. You're going to speak on behalf of Americas altogether. I mean, if I'm going with what I was feeling before, I think Leviathan. But I just think Listen, I think for both of these teams, Leviathan and Loud, and for most teams that if we're looking at them as unknowns in a 1-week tournament, right, with a short group stage and that's all you get, I think you have to count the potential pop-off a lot heavier than you would in other tournaments, and my gut says Leviathan is a bigger pop-off. But it's like nothing against Loud. It's literally just... I don't know. Maybe it's because actually it might even be because I've always just believed in Loud to be a slow and steady and consistent team. But I just think the pop off is potentially bigger on Lev.
It totally could be. Leviathan's players are outrageous.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're individually
they're a stacked
so...
roster.
Yeah,
but dude, getting to watch Aspas play against Loud, I hope we get this bracket. I mean, this bracket would be the best case scenario. All right, who are you going for? Fact Brigade.
I have no facts here.
There's no
but
facts.
I feel like
So you're abstaining again. Coin flip for anything where we didn't see an off-season tournament.
that's actually so smart. That's
No,
so smart.
that's not smart.
that's brilliant.
That's not smart. Hey, viewers, just tune in to us doing 50 coin flips in a row instead of giving you any
Dude,
kind of
people
insight.
tune into watching people open CS:GO cases for like 50 hours. They love gambling. They love the coin. Flip it. Actually, you know what? Don't flip a coin. Give me a roulette wheel, and one team is red, one team is green.
One team is green.
You mean
Oh,
It's
sorry.
red and
I mean,
black.
one team is black, one team is red.
I
I've
mean, the
never been to
green
a
are like
casino.
1 or 2 spaces on the roulette. That team is fucked, man. Okay, do you have any preference even between Lev and Loud? Wyatt or Mimi?
I think it's funnier if Loud win and they prove that they don't need that fraud Ospas and they're the best team in the world still. I don't think Ospas is a fraud, for the record. I honestly think this game is gonna be 50-50. But in my head, the narratives that are swirling around in the small bit of brain remaining that isn't left for facts is that Sadak never loses with a new team, and he always has really creative, good ideas on the meta, and it's gonna come out with some shit that will shock you. This will shock you. And they'll have already played 2 matches by now, so Leviathan will know what's coming. But that doesn't matter because Loud are the GOATs and they're beating Ospas. And honestly, this game is such a 50-50. I'm just fucking muttering
Yapatron.
words.
just yapping around in
What am I
circles till you
saying?
come back to the opposite of what you started with.
But that's the thing. I don't fucking know who's gonna win this match. I feel like it's
Jesus Christ.
flip the coin, spin the wheel, spin the wheel, spin the wheel, spin the wheel, spin the wheel. Yes.
And it's loud.
It's loud.
It's loud.
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you,
Oh
Wheel.
my god. Okay, sure. Let's send Loud through. Either way, banger of a match. Assuming we get it.
No
Alright,
insight.
Dude, move
None.
on. Move on.
No,
Move on.
not a shred of insight.
Oh god. All right, final group. We've already locked in G2 over crew. So now we've got G2 playing against EG. I'm going G2.
Gotta go G2.
Yeah, G2.
Yeah.
More proven, more talented, probably as well.
More
But-
time together, right?
Yeah,
Like,
more
I
time
mean,
together. They've just
I
got
mean-
everything working towards them. If EG can pull that out, then we need to be paying attention to them.
I mean, EG has
basically.
3 players playing in like America's Online for the first time. Obviously, all very experienced across their careers, but not quite at this level. It's a completely new project. I mean, it's a new caller coming in. It's a new system. Even when EG went on to win a tournament with their like wild roster last year, they never had success immediately. I think when you're building something like scratch from this with unproven names, it really does take a lot of time and takes a lot of process to get it right. And I think it's pretty unlikely that they'll come out swinging. But I do think that this team will be competitive throughout the season. I just don't think the kickoff tournament is going to be the time for them.
Are they going to be competitive against crew?
Yeah, it's crew. They're winning. I don't know.
So,
I don't
so
think that's
EG
fair.
is going to be competitive, but you have crew winning the game.
I don't know, honestly. I feel like I actually might want to pick EG here. Like, I think that crew has made some good upgrades. I think Shy coming in is going to be awesome for them. But overall, I feel like EG, if there's one thing I can have faith in, it's Potter having like a good read on the meta and some like good ideas to come into this one with. And my worry is that Crew, even though they've changed a lot around, will still kind of fundamentally, because they do have Kesnet, and we've seen it across like every iteration of this team, where they fall into a lot of these same like pitfalls of like over aggression, of like investing too much into individual players, into making a lot of mistakes that are exploitable. My hope is that'll be better with this iteration of the roster, but we've seen that so many times with this team that I feel like there is a real chance that EG can come in with a better read on the meta and be able to shut that kind of stuff down. And I also think people are kind of sleeping on the firepower of the team. Like, they still fucking have Jojimo. And people, I feel like, don't rate him like an Ospas or like a Demon 1. But remember how insane he was throughout their run in Americas, throughout their run at Champions. Jojimo is so good. He's a very flexible player. No matter what he's playing, he is always at that top level. Superman in his career, back when he was playing a lot more actively at a top level, was also always like a top level smokes player. So many teams wanted him, but he was, if I remember correctly, stuck in contract jail and couldn't be picked up at the beginning of last year, and now has his potential to come into this one. Apoth as well. He was gonna be the guy that they were putting a punt on to replace Demon 1 into Tokyo. And when he played on that EG reserve roster, we remember hearing about how well that team was doing against other teams. Back when he was on EG, he was always really good. I feel like this team legitimately has some talent, and I feel like you can't doubt Potter in having a good read and a good idea going into this season. That I lean EG.
It was Reformed that was going to be heading to Tokyo rather than Naples. But yeah, I understand what you mean. I don't think there's a large skill disparity between these two teams, frankly. I think that probably you're right in that EG has a small edge, but when you're matching them up against Crew, who have Kesnet, who is fantastic. I mean, Kesnet on an individual level is, I think, able to match up with Jorgamo. And I think that one of the things that really worked for Jorgamo is that he had a team that was able to support everything that he did. And I don't think that's going to be there yet for EG. Not at all.
Yeah.
I think Crew have just got way more time to figure out a system that actually works for them. You know, they were starting to build something towards the end of last year at LCQ by running those really strict 1-3-1 defaults. They'd actually managed to get Kesnet back into the system rather than just having him run around like a headless chicken. I lean their way just because it's the beginning of the year. I don't know whether I will later on, but I've got to go with Crew for this opening match, I think.
Yeah, I would also go with Crew. Similar reasons, but I also just think like listen, I don't really like picking on any single player for any team or any match, but like not having Nags just not showing up for the first map every match they play, I think is a huge buff for Crew, right? And I think it's just now that obviously they've been together for longer, etc., they're just going to have the start I think you expect them to have, which is going to be pretty good, and I think that's going to be solid enough for them to carry the momentum to beat out an EG who's probably still like working things out towards a greater goal.
I'm gonna be going with facts over feelings.
What does that mean?
Thus I pick Crew. But my feeling is EG. But facts say Crew.
I've had enough of these facts. This logic.
Suddenly the fact brigade is splitting up.
I feel though that in this cruel dog eat dog world, we don't have enough feelings. We don't have enough love going around. Show some love, Wyatt.
Yeah.
Make a change.
No.
Make a change you want to see in the world.
If Crew win this game, it'll be the only win that they've had in like a year and a half that wasn't in LCQ. That was it's like a sea
so
of red.
depressing.
It's so crazy that I'm so jaded by DFM that statement had no effect on me. But that is a cool stat. That is a cool stat.
DFM are even worse. Yeah. But it's when was the last time this win over Team Liquid in the previous off season in December? So yeah, not quite a year and a half, but a year and a few months, year and 3 months, something like that.
Oof.
All right then, let's lock Crew in because it was 3-1 on Crew, and that sets us up. Can we even pred the rest of it? Does it put people into play-ins or something like that?
I don't think so.
No. Okay, so then that would create a play-in bracket though, where Wyatt, you're essentially saying that the Team B team is just massively favored, right?
I mean, the way the groups have shaken out, just because you have NRG who are going to crush Group A, and then you have every other top team that we're looking at in Group B, unless one of the other teams is a serious surprise like G2 or I think G2, if any team is going to be the surprise team, it's probably going to be them, based on how the groups are have shook out with Group B. But yeah, I mean, when you're looking at who I believe that just whichever team comes out of Group B, they're 50-50 NRG or the Group C team. So good luck out there. I mean, that's just, you're riding on luck. Another coin flip. We haven't had enough, but it's another one.
Which also means that there's a serious chance that NRG plays against the second seed from Team B in order to make it to Madrid. And so, we might be in a situation where NRG plays against Loud or plays against Sentinels or plays against Leviathan in order for a route through, which would be, a banging single elimination game to head off to the biggest event to start the year. So that's wild. America's kind of feasting. I remember I had a take earlier on in the year that I thought America's was going to be weak this year because I wasn't sure what NRG were cooking. But the fact that they went from being a team that we didn't know anything about to becoming a super team, America's looks so stacked. It's outrageous. Let's move on though, because before we get into our EMEA kickoffs and the pick'ems and stuff like that, we actually do know who's on Koi. They have a roster. They don't just have 3 players anymore. We don't have to root for the facts over feelings. Koi will lose every game because they only have 3 players. So they have confirmed their roster. They're adding a couple of rookie players. They no longer have... I think most people... I mean, at least I was assuming that they were going to keep Coldamenta as the IGL. I didn't see an announcement earlier on in the season that they weren't doing that, so I was just assuming that was the case. But it looks like Starzo is going to be picking up the IGL. They picked up Shadow, who I think was the only player left to pick up from that Apex roster from last year. And they've gone with Grabino and Camo, who are, I think, both Polish kind of rookie players who are on the come-up. So what do you guys think about this roster? Does it change the needle in any way as to your expectations for Koi?
I mean, they also brought in Shadow, got rid of Shadow, and brought him back. So that's just the silliness abounds. I mean, we simply cannot avoid that with Koi decision making. Though, maybe it was the classic. I remember Avast would always say this. Sometimes you just have to bench a player to remind him that he's but a speck in the universe, and then will overcome the ego death only to return a better man. So maybe that happened with Shadow. But that being said, come on. I mean, you can't have high hopes for this team. And it's not their fault. It's just more management silliness, which we've already seen is so detrimental all of last year and going into this year. Fucking shout out to EG. I mean, it's just management can ruin your team despite how good your players are. So sadly, they're just in that situation, and hopefully the players can overcome that. But it's hard to be thrilled about a team in this situation.
Have any of you ever watched these 2 guys, Camo and Grabino? Because I can't say I've ever seen them play. So I
feel like Grabino, I feel like I've seen him before, but from like a while ago. Not any of his matches recently.
I watched Camo because Koi played with like a previous version of the roster where they played against Case. And Camo's been hanging around the tier 2 scene for a while as well. But I wasn't paying too much attention to him at the time, and I haven't gone back and VOD reviewed that game again since he got officially announced onto the roster. I seem to recall like thinking that he was all right, but overall, I don't think, as far as I can remember, he wasn't lighting the world on fire. I mean, his stats looked fairly good there, but I don't remember him being a fantastic prospect that would change the course of this team. And I don't know anything about Grabino.
It looks like Grabino, just from scrolling his VLR, played with Team Heretics for like a little bit when they were in Challengers and just like bottom fragged most games from what I'm seeing. Like, I don't know. I can't say I haven't really seen either of these players, so I don't know what to expect. But I mean, I wish them the best. I hope they succeed in tier 1. But this really does feel like a roster that was just obviously pulled together at the last minute, and they got who they could, but there really shouldn't be an expectation of much. And it just makes me sad because they really do have some really good players on this team that I feel like if they had I don't know. Maybe been a little more proactive in their offseason.
mean,
They could have built something better.
They've got some kind of good players, but if Trex was already planning to leave, like if Trex wanted out and was heading to Vitality, Trex was their best player. Shados is really good, but has just been stuck on this team for ages. They didn't have a serious team identity or calling structure. Like, this team has been doomed for a while, guys.
That's
so
true.
they had to full rebuild and have a really good idea of what their identity was going to be heading into this year. They didn't. They fucked around for too long in a series of unwieldy trials. Then they got to the end of the year. One of their players left, leaving them to scramble right before the season began. And now we're left with this roster. It's not going to look pretty, but it is going to be an opportunity, I think, for the two Polish rookie players to try to prove themselves and, like, you know, make a name for themselves on the stage. And
This
maybe a bit
feels
of an
like-
opportunity for Starzo to rebuild himself as an IGL too, because he only IGL'd a tiny bit back on that old Ascend roster, like when they were throwing it around to each other. I think after Boncolt left and then Zeke picked it up and then Starzo started or something like that. So there's some opportunities here, but I don't think it should alter your expectations of where they finish.
Yeah. I feel like this kind of has like Cloud9 beginning of last year vibes, where they just like kind of troll their offseason and pick up two players that no one really knows anything about. And it's like, well, I mean, I hope something happens. And Cloud9 was the exception to that. I do not expect this team to go on a run in that way. And yeah, I feel like it's kind of just like they have a roster now. It's a roster that they have. That's the best I can say about it.
So much insight on this episode.
It's a fact. They do have a roster now.
All right, well, let's go into the
guys are
EMEA.
learning.
Let's go into the EMEA pick'ems then. So there's two massive matches, I think, in these opening rounds. So let's have a look at these to start with. The first one is Giant X, bloody name, versus Carmine Core, which is a really interesting clash, I think, between a team that's just added Redgar but had a really good season, and then Carmine Core, who've rebuilt. That's not a guarantee.
Wait.
I got
Fake
confused.
guarantee.
I got confused. I'm sorry. So much black and white logos.
The entirety of EMEA is just black and white logos. So for the audio listeners, Chobra's gone with Giants, and the rest of us have gone with Carmine Core. I want to. What do you think about the black and white logos in EMEA? You used to run an org. Why are we in this? Why are we in this meta?
Well, when I was running an org, I was also using black and white logos, but that was in 2018. Guys, it's time to move on from the minimalist aesthetic and the desire to create 2017 streetwear merchandise. Please, we're in the year 2024. My God, it's been 7 years, everybody. Time to do some more interesting branding. So that's my take,
Okay.
Josh. Now, do you want me to give a take about the match?
Yeah, the match as well, yeah.
Do you want me to give it? Okay, now, honestly, this is a sweet combination of facts and feelings.
Bloody hell. Here we go.
What?
I've had enough of both.
It is. It's gonna be a little bit. It's a little bit of both. Because Josh, now be real with me. You can't tell me you're not smelling a little bit of cooking in the air here from Carmine Corp. You're not. You can. Something's wafting, right? Like you can sense that in the air that there's about to be some magic happening from the
It
Carmine
smells like a
Corp
freshly
camp.
cooked Factor meal, actually. One that you've put in the microwave and
Oh
taken
my
out.
God. Okay, the way you're double talking again. The way that you're double talking and can't control your audio output. Yeah, I mean, I'm just... listen, I'm not going to give the deep insight here. I'm looking at the roster. There are certainly some question marks. Magnum coming back to IGL this team. Interesting. I love that they took a risk and brought Narrate over from NA. Mad potential on that guy. I'm also satisfied that they kept Shin. I think he was the player showing the most potential from the Carmine Core car crash of last year. But a good decision in my mind. So listen, I'm liking what they've done with the roster, and I'm smelling the magic in the air. And it's that beautiful combination of two that is resulting in me having more faith in them than Giants X, who have made but one change, bringing in the Redgar IGL to this season. And also, if I'm being totally honest, I think there's also just an aspect. There's an aspect of this where Carmine Core is going to be so much more. They're just such a tantalizing, juicy meal for us to feast upon that that also just makes me want them to win, which is overpowering logic. So
The feelings have got you this time.
I feel like, but to feel one more thing. You're on the same wavelength, Wilkinson, and I can feel that.
I am.
I
Carmen
knew it.
Carmen Core this year, talking about smelling things, smell like a delightful rose. And last year, they smelled like the manure that was used to grow that rose. And so in the process of the 2 years has really just built up this delightful, beautiful flower that I think is going to bloom this year. But having said that, I don't think that they're the favorites for this match. I think if you were just thinking about it from a pure facts perspective, I don't think they're the favorites. I think they're the underdog with a really good chance of being able to win. I think Giants had a very solid year last year. They've got a good team system. They've got a lot of skill, too. As much as Carmen Core have just thrown like some of the most skilled rookie players together, this Giants core is very skilled, too. People don't talk about Hoodie very much. He just disappears, but he's also got a lot of skill for being the, fourth best fragger on the team or something. And, dude, if Redguard decides to shoot back, if he has one of those games, he's outrageous. It's just that most of the time, he's off doing whatever the hell he wants. But, my God, if they can rein him in, the Giants have a decent chance of actually being a top team this year if they can integrate Redguard properly with the squad.
Yeah.
And that's where the question marks come for me, and that's why I'm hoping for the Carmen Core victory. But I definitely went for a bit of a punt here with KC. And the fact that three of us have gone for it, I think doesn't tell exactly the story that Giants are probably the favorite.
I feel like this is like 55-45 Giants. The biggest, like, besides the points you guys have already brought up that kind of led me to punt on Carmen Core here was that I just have trust issues about, like, the beginning of Redguard-led teams. I'm thinking about, like, that Liquid match at Lock-In. And like, it's not going to be like that.
Don't ever think about that ever again for your own mental health, Mimi. Never think about that.
That was really bad. It's not going to be like that because this Giants team has a core. They were playing on the off season. I think they played like one off season event. They honestly look pretty good there. I like this team. I think they're going to be like upper middle of EMEA here, but I also feel kind of similar about that with Carmine Core and something about this like new roster, this tantalizing prospect having like the surprise factor of having never been seen before. I really think the stars are aligning for an upset here. I think this K-Core roster has so much talent that it's just kind of been waiting to be unleashed. Narrate is so good. Even when K-Core was shit last year, Shin still had great moments. I really believe that there can be an upset here.
Mimi, I love that from you.
Thank you.
Facts. That's what you provided at the beginning of that. And I love that.
It's been a while since I've done that, so thank you. Going back to my roots.
Giants. Giant X, in fact, to give them their proper terminology.
Right, which is honestly trying to make me choose KC now because that name is just terrible to say out loud. But I mean, this is just a flip of what we had with Loud and Leviathan, where I was the only one who was cheering for my feelings of Leviathan, and now we've got three of you cheering for your feelings of Carmine Corp. But I mean, again, I think it is that where it's like, okay, KC, yeah, sure, individually, I mean, I guess I agree with everything you guys said, right? Especially things like Shin. And then the potential for narrate, things like that, where it's like, okay, I mean, I think there's potential there. I would say the coaching staff as well. I mean, whether you're someone who puts a lot of weight into that or not, I think is very trustworthy. So it's one of those things where I agree that Carmine Corp looks a lot more hopeful as a team, but the core Giant X is really good, I think. Like, just... I don't think their end result of 2023 in like every tournament tells the whole story at all. I think they play really well individually, and I think overall their chemistry and communication seems to be pretty good too. The funny part is even as someone who voted for Giant X, Redguard is actually the reason I almost didn't vote for them. As much as I love the guy, and I actually really, to some extent, trust in his style of IGLing, I think it does need an evolution just because of the meta changes and the overall growth of Valorant and how the direction it's taken. So I am curious. I'm curious how that's going to work out, right? If the other players kind of help mix things in, or if Redgar's going to bring all the other players back to his style, which if they're all on the same page, sure, it won't look bad. But I do think it's not the way that most teams are taking Valorant in. So, you know, that's the one question mark for me for Giant X. But otherwise, I just think I think that Giants core is actually really, really trustworthy. I think they're very consistent.
I also think that Pipson is the kind of coach who will not let Redguard get away with some of the stuff that he gets away with. Sure. I think Pipson's a bit of an alpha energy kind of coach, at least from what I understand. So I think Redguard will struggle to get away with that. It's also Redguard playing against his former coach, Eng, who was on that Gambit core and is now coaching for Carmen core. So there's a lot of interesting stuff for this match overall. I think it's just going to be a fun one too, because this Carmen core team is going to play high tempo. And Giants generally tries to control the game a little bit. They don't tend to be as explosive themselves. I think it's going to be good. But should we move on to the next match, which features more French players and more the other French team?
Oui.
Oh, tu es fluent. Ah.
Ouais. Je parle très bien français.
It's Team Vitality versus the Gentle Mates. And 3 of us are going with Vitality with Gentle Mates on Chobra. Again, isolated in your belief in the other side.
Justify this.
Yeah, what's the Gentle Mates pick for
justify
here,
this.
Chobra?
He just loves France.
Well, no, this was a totally feeling thing. This is a totally feeling thing. The only facts I have to go off of is obviously Vitality in terms of off season and their recent looks. And I was actually all on board the Vitality hype train at the start of Convergence because I was casting that in Korea for the Korean audience. And then once they finally met some opposition, like a lot of the cracks that you were afraid would show started to show a little bit. And I think the biggest part is so the biggest part for me was like Safe starts to really just try to just make something happen on his own and things like that, and then Runner just not able to really pop off against opponents who are actually shooting back at the same level or higher, things like that. So it's just things like that where I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going with the opposite hype train of Gentle Mates, and then I've seen some of the weaknesses that I think are now shown for Vitality, I'm just gonna vote against that. But honestly, this one is like a total feeling, even more so than Leviathan.
They choked the fuck out of this game as well. I was so pissed doing the co-stream of
mega
this.
choked that. Yeah,
But I think that's the kind of thing you expect from newer rosters like this with less experienced players.
Talk.
How am I double talking?
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
Dude, Kurt's trolling you guys.
No, you were doing the robot voice again.
It's probably my my internet connection's not doing very good. But sorry, they choked the crap out of this match, and I think that I just think they're gonna learn from stuff like that. I am so high on Vitality, and when they let me down against Gentle Mates and Existence clowns on everybody that didn't believe in them, and the French overtake EMEA, and then they go on to take down Fnatic, then I will repent. I will repent, and I will move to Paris, and I will eat cheese for the rest of my fucking life. But until then, Viva Vitality.
There's no way. I thought, I'm sorry. There's just absolutely no way on this planet. If Vitality loses, I will put the Plat butt plug straight up my ass. there is no way they're losing this game.
That will be featured on our Patreon, by the way, if you want to.
oh my gosh.
I don't know how to follow that up, except for the fact that the defendant, William Chobra, has provided nothing but his own feelings that are staunchly incorrect. There's no, okay, they choked
I
to
can't
Foot,
wait.
Foot, who is, I think, going to be like a top 4 team in the region, who is going to be very, very good. Do you want to know who's not going to be a top 4 team? Gentle Mates. Like, they're coming up from Ascension. They looked good in Ascension. They beat the team that choked there. Cool, congratulations, guys. Welcome to Tier 1. Vitality was a team that was already good last year, that had a good core, and they made 2 clear upgrades with Runner and with Safe, who are both insanely talented players. They've had time to learn in the offseason. I actually think that choke will be good for them. I expect them to show up to Kickoff and be fucking excellent. Goodbye, Gentle Mates. Fastest 2-0 of my life.
But, okay, even though I'm with Vitality, I feel like we're going too hard on the not believing in Gentle Mates. Because the thing is, I just don't know what to think about that team at all. They weren't that good throughout Tier 2 from the games that I watched up until the very end. But then they like look like a different team, and I don't know if it was a run. They haven't played any off-season events. They haven't, like, I just don't know what to think about them at all. But I don't think you can take that and just write them off and be like, they're going to be crap. I just think you have to wait and see how they actually perform in matches like this.
But I think Vitality.
You said the easiest 2-0 of your life.
Well, sometimes we have to let feelings get into our facts. I think the facts of the matter are if I move away from my feelings a little bit, which I was expressing earlier, I let that get to me. I'll be honest,
Okay.
I wasn't being logical. Logically, I think this is a 2-0. I think it'll be closer than the easiest 2-0 of Vitality's life, but I think they
Right.
should have a comfortable handle on this game because they have a good core, they have good ideas, they've upgraded with excellent players. I think even if they didn't have good ideas, their firepower just diffs the hell out of this team, even if it came down to that.
Oh, see, that's where I'm struggling, man, because I really feel like General Mates has got some talent there too. I think that when these players turn up, they can have a lot of firepower. I don't think they are a lackluster roster. But maybe my brain's just getting twisted by thinking too much about the end of their Ascension run and not the beginning.
Kurt, how much time have we spent on this match?
Yeah, we should just
I don't
move
think
on.
we
Is
spent
it
that
just-
long.
I mean, it's
Is
a
it just-
3-1.
Because to me, it feels like eons. I mean, this is just so straightforward.
Okay, all right. You're
it's
going to put a
just
butt plug
straightforward.
into every orifice if General Mates lose. If General Mates win. All right, we'll move on. We'll just let's just clip that for posterity, for your posterior.
Good lord, man.
All right, let's get into
wait.
the rest of the EMEA pick'em then. So, I suppose if we start with the top group, we've got Giants versus Karmikor. We've already done that.
Foot,
yeah, Foot
foot.
Heretics.
Foot,
yeah,
foot,
it's just
foot.
Foot.
Just foot us up.
It
Give me all
has
the
to be
foot.
Giants over Heretics as well. And really, it probably should have been Giants over Karmikor, but whatever. Giants over. So then, I think Karmikor end up losing out on this. I think
Yeah,
the two
Foot-
top
yeah.
teams should be Foot and
It's
Giants.
just foot.
No,
Foot
Foot's
is going to
so
be good.
good.
And here's the thing:
Yeah.
Karmikor got the upset the first time. Upsets don't happen twice in a row. Giants X win
Nice.
the rematch, and the group ends as it should.
Okay, I'm
I'm
content
rolling
with
with
that.
it.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah.
rolling with it.
I'm content with that. I think
Cool.
there's a chance for Karmikor to upset for sure, but that seems pretty good. So moving on to the next one. Now, this did not have very good opening games. I think Liquid and Na'Vi should be clear favorites in those
I'm
games.
really excited for this opening Elim match, though. That is going to be hype. BBL versus Koi. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Match of the week, baby.
It is kind of
Wait.
tough to call, though, I think, genuinely.
No, I'm going with the Brazilian butt lift. They're winning. They are winning this game. Come on now. They're just they have to be the more reliable choice.
yeah.
I think probably they're a bit more reliable. Yeah, they're definitely more reliable. Yeah, they're definitely a more reliable choice. But I don't think Koi have got a disastrous roster. It's just that it doesn't look that great.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with Wyatt, right? I think everything you just said, Sideshow, is the same as well. It's like, yeah, it's not that Koi is like garbage or anything. It's just BBL's roster seems more reliable and more of a known value.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, sure.
I'm down for that.
I'm
I
just
don't think
looking
it
at-
matters.
I don't
No.
think any of us are very invested in that match.
No,
Yeah.
but
No.
Kushner clears.
Yeah, Kushner
Yes.
is extremely
Yeah.
talented.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
Yeah, Koi have got a couple of talented players, but they're not enough time to build a team that should be able to win matches, I don't think. Anyway, Na'Vi versus Liquid up at the top. I've got Na'Vi by a decent margin.
Yeah, I
Any
mean, Na'Vi,
agrees?
Na'Vi is just,
I agree.
they're just FPX. They're a known quantity. They're really good
Yeah.
at coming out ahead in metas. They have insane talent on that roster. I think TL is a team that's going to be pretty good with time in this region, but it's another one of these teams where they're kind of coming in with a lot of new pieces, with having to refine their style, with changing out the IGLing. I think it's going to take a little bit for Team Liquid to get to their peak, and I expect Na'Vi to just come out swinging and be the top level team that they have been for eons as this core, at least within EMEA.
Should be a very easy group, actually. And if Team Liquid struggle, then I think it's time to get a little worried about them. I mean, apart
Yeah.
from the game against Na'Vi. But, you know, only worried about the beginning of the season, not long term.
I feel like this
necessarily.
group is actually really like nice, like warm up, like a little welcome home for artists, right? I feel like these are both pretty favorable games for them. Liquid probably going to be a little bit closer, but I feel like this is the right direction to kind of get Na'Vi revved up and ready to go into this season.
Yeah. Okay. Let's lock it in. Team Liquid qualifying and submit the pick'em. We'll move on to the next group. So the final group in EMEA is got Fnatic in there. So we don't need to comment on that.
We don't
I
need to
actually
talk
don't-
about it.
Dude, that should be a really fun game to watch though. Vitality Fnatic.
Hold on, is Trex going to be in for this?
No.
No, it's
He's
going to be
just
with
considered a
Destrian.
sub. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's announced that he won't be playing for this tournament.
Would you have a punt on Vitality if they had Trex in there?
Yeah. I would, honestly.
I think it's if there was like
I
an
don't think
odds
it's a bad
spread.
punt.
I think it would be a good punt for the odds that would be given because the odds would
Yes,
just be
sure.
like so far
Sure,
for
sure.
Fnatic to win.
That's how my brain works too. So yes, I hard agree.
But at the same time, it's Fnatic, and I think they're going to come out and dominate. The only chance I think Fnatic could get upset at the beginning of this year at some point because they might not be as aggressive as other teams at changing to whatever the meta is. I see them as taking the safer options a lot of the time. And if the meta becomes super heavy chamber or super heavy, like, I don't know, Gecko Breach or something, I could see them being slow to pick that up just because they are winning so much that they don't need to. And maybe they suffer some kind of upset a little down the road, but it ain't going to be here.
Yeah.
You're
Let
right.
it go through.
Fnatic and Vitality win again.
Vitality. Yeah.
Facts.
Easy. I feel like EMEA is pretty easy to pred. Like, I actually think this is going to be a perfect bracket. Like, I'm serious. This
Yeah.
is
Groups
a
are
perfect
a
bracket.
little. The groups aren't very exciting for EMEA.
No.
Yeah.
It's got,
there's
each
not
group
like a
has
stacked
like
group.
two clearly better teams. It's
But at the
fun.
same time, I think Group A is actually the most interesting with
Yes,
Kamikor in there.
I agree.
But I think that's going to make the play-in really interesting too, because like our version of the play-in would have Giants, Vitality, and Liquid, and that's a great play-in
Oh,
to see
yeah.
who's going to be the fourth place team. And at the same time, like you could definitely see situations in the single in bracket where Fnatic plays against Na'Vi, for example, and that might be a banger of a match at the beginning of the year. You know, we might not even get the top two teams from EMEA actually going. So, yeah, it's an exciting region once you get out of the initial group stage, I think. Shall we move on, though? Let's take a look at the Pacific kickoff pick'ems then. So we've got 3 banger matchups from the Pacific first round. And this is where Chobra is going to deliver the fact, and we're
Finally.
going to deliver the feelings.
Well, I don't know. A lot of people seem to disagree on that as well, but we'll get to that.
Okay, well, let's start with a really hype matchup. It's T1 versus Bleed. We were discussing these two teams as being potential winners of any chamber involvement, and all of us have gone with T1. Do you think
you have to?
you think you just have to?
I think. Well, okay. Listen, I don't think any Bleed fan can be called insane if they chose Bleed, but I think this would be one of those cases where it's like, oh well, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be crazy, but it would be an upset. I mean, sure, like, yeah, listen, I have nothing. I think Ye is going to perform very well. But you have Saya and Excure. Like, you have guys who can shoot back just as well, like, similarly enough. And I think Excure probably can hold 1-to-1, depending on, like, the map and the style that they're playing. So, with that said, it's like, okay, you can't just bank on the Ye factor. Sure, they're scary, but it's all these things where it's like, these are all individually very gifted players, and I think Bleed is actually going to be a very strong team and surprise a lot of people that are counting them out. But T1 has looked very good, and I still stand by that. I think their philosophy and what seems to be their interpretation of the game, which is going to be a lot more off the cuffs than the previous iterations of that roster, is going to overrun Bleed and the ability to react to that in game, right? So the only way I think Bleed is winning is by firepower, and I don't think T1 really gets shoved around in that department.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty reasonable. For me, this is like a 60-40 to T1. I agree with all the reasons you're saying, but I do feel like people are like really heavy doomerism on Bleed before we've like really seen them play ever.
Yeah.
With their full roster, we have no idea how good Ye is going to be. He could be 2021 best player in the world, or he could be or 2022 best player in the world, or he could be shit. Like it's tough to know how well he's going to perform on this roster. I feel like this, honestly, maybe across the entirety of like all of the leagues, this is the team for me that has like the most variability in how good they could be. I really feel like there is a lot of players on this roster that we've seen at their heights, like Ye, like Scary, even like Crazy Guy when he was playing before, who can be absolutely incredible if they can find the right ideas and the right mix to enable those players. I think they could be kind of a really strong upset team in Pacific, but I also could see the idea just kind of falling apart and failing. So T1 for me is the clear favorite in this one, but this definitely has upset potential.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, T1 have gone ahead and actually put together a very sensible roster now. at the end of the day that I am satisfied with. I can't say the same for Bleed. They have provided me with far more question marks than T1 have with their off-season decision making. They did the big buy acquisition, and I'm not convinced that that was the right acquisition until proven otherwise. T1, on the other hand, satisfied with the moves. I'm going with T1 because of that. Facts.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I think at some point T1 may end up just swapping their roles around a ton, because I think there's going to be serious meta changes from the last time we saw T1 to the beginning of the season. And I think meta changes like that, yes, they have Execute, so if they're going to run Chamber anywhere, that's going to be excellent. And I think Execute actually is going to be able to bring it to Ye. I think Ye looked phenomenal on Chamber, obviously. He was the best player in the world by like a country mile. But I think on Bleed, he's not going to have as good of an idea that the rest of the map is all being covered and people are going to be like funneled into him, or he's going to have the space created, or that kind of stuff. I think he's not going to have as easy a time of just focusing on himself. I think he's going to have to fill more of the gaps in the team than he did on Optic. And so I think that at the end of the day, there isn't going to be a massive gap there between the two of them. What I am thinking about, though, is if it becomes a double initiator kind of thing, then you've got probably Carpe and Rossi playing initiator for T1, right? Which I guess isn't a problem either, because Rossi was a pretty good initiator too. But when we saw T1 playing, they were playing double smokes with E2 or extra Rossi. Well, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think if there's any good reason why T1 should be significantly worse than we're expecting, but I don't think so. I think Bleed's going to be good too. I actually believe in this team. I think a lot of the reason why people don't believe in this team is because, first of all, they like to hate on Ye, and they think it's funny that he performed badly when he was in Tier 1, and they love calling people washed. Motherfuckers on the internet love calling people washed. And I think the other reason is because people just don't... I think a lot of the audience did not watch Bleed play in their Ascension run, and don't realize how good people like... I mean... Some people won't even remember how good Scary is, but Scary is the most known of the players. Like Darion, Crazy Guy, these players are cracked. And then when you add Ye on top of this, and you also have Scary there, this is a very talented roster that if they can get any semblance of coordination together, should be very dangerous in a region that I think generally doesn't have the skill to match up against them. It's only the top tier teams like T1, like PaperX, like DRX, who should be able to go toe-to-toe with them, I think.
Yeah, I the way I see Bleed is even without Ye, I think the three core from Ascension, so that's Darion, Crazy Guy, and Scary, and then the addition of Egoist alone, I think puts them like fairly stable in the middle of the pack of Pacific. And then I think Ye's the kind of wild card of if he performs to our hopes and expectations, then they could really punch up above their weight. And if not, they would still be a pretty solid team. And I think, maybe not near the top, like maybe not getting to the semifinals or stuff of the playoffs, but, very consistently trying to make playoffs. So I agree. I mean, they're individually all gifted, even Egoist, right? I mean, he was the one guy who was giving Bleed trouble, during their rampage in Malaysia and Singapore after Pacific, since PaperX was no longer there. So it's all these guys that never really got the global spotlight because of PaperX, and now they have it. And I think they're really going to prove it to the rest of the world. And I think, worst things, if the worst case is that Ye just doesn't top frag, but I think he's still going to be able to still frag out against most people in Pacific. So yeah, I think they're going to be a very strong team. But again, I just think I agree with Wyatt, the roster and the color of the roster and the philosophy. I think T1 is looking much stronger. Yeah,
it was impressive. So if Wyatt
what
was spitting about T1, Wyatt's going to be spitting about the next match that we got coming up. We got Zeta Division playing against Global Esports, and there is not a Zeta Glazer in the land bigger than Wyatt River. Here it comes. It's Zeta Division.
Oh.
The problem is, though, this isn't even an exciting opportunity for you to glaze them because they are just expected to win this one.
They are simply better.
Are they?
Yes.
I think Global. I think so. Yeah, they gotta be.
Should be, but.
Man,
I also just see a world
where
Last drops
no.
90 kills kills and they lose 2-1.
No,
It's
no.
always never denied the possibility of Zeta Division to lose a game.
I truly believe
Never
that no
doubt.
one has ever watched this team. That's
team
my
is so
final
good.
take.
I'm sorry. Other than the freaking 40-round game that I casted of them.
Zeta should win. They absolutely.
No, Zeta should win. I'm just surprised that everyone thinks it's supposed to be like one-sided.
I talked to God and he said Zeta Division would win.
I think
not
Zeta are
true.
going to slap Global around on an individual
Do you
level.
think Zeta's gonna slap them around?
Yes.
I think there's a real
Yes.
possibility that Laz and Depp like have to really fire on all cylinders to convince.
I
like,
think
to win.
Heroron looked astoundingly talented in the games that we saw.
Wyatt,
of
are
him
you
play.
okay?
I actually am very because we all know
We've done psychic damage to Wyatt.
I'm a huge fan of Huron Urine. I think actually they're really good pickups. I think this is a huge upgrade for the team. But after their initial showing, which I think the order was Red Bull and then Riot 1, right? So after Red Bull, I was like, oh my gosh, Zeta is actually going to be really exciting in 2024. And then I saw Riot 1 and I was like, okay, maybe not as quickly as I would have thought. Obviously, okay, the game against Na'Vi, it's Na'Vi, so that's one thing. But just their execution, I think is still lacking. I think that's where, again, players like Huron, it's going to take time. I mean, I don't think that's anything against them. They've barely been playing in Tier 2 in Japan, so obviously they're going to need some time to really adjust. But the thing is I don't think, if I were to do a ranking in Pacific, yeah, G wouldn't be at the top, but I think they're very good and their reads on the game are going to be good enough that it really does put a lot of pressure onto players like Huron Uran. And I actually think Polvi will do fine as the guy who needs to lead the firepower for G against a team like Zeta Division. So
I think Polvi will be all right.
yeah, I mean, listen, I think Depp should have been like top 2 duelist in Pacific last year, or definitely top 3 during at least VCT Pacific alone. So I rate Zeta very highly. I do think they should win, but I don't think it's like a 70-30. To me, it's like a 60-40.
Okay. No. All I want to say here is, all right, and I'm going to keep this nice and short and sweet, okay? all I'm going to say here is, okay, so Chobra, have Zeta Division made roster upgrades from having Crow and 10? Are their new players better? Is the roster overall, do they have more talent than they did last year?
Okay, since you want to keep it short, yes.
Okay, next thing. You say that there's the situation in which Depp and Laz have to go nuclear to bring them over the finish line. Is that not what they did against the lower tier teams all of last year? And now they actually have better players around them? Yeah, if they have to go nuclear to win, they'll do it because they did that all the time in the past. And now they have better players. It's like, okay, short, sweet, and now I'm done.
Sold.
I mean, we all predicted Zeta anyway.
I know, but
This is another
Okay.
gentlemates moment.
defensive.
We all agree Zeta is going to win this game. They are a clear favorite. Let's not waste our breath on global
Okay.
esports.
Sure.
Let's.
Oh my God, hold on.
That sounded
Pain,
way
holy
meaner
shit.
than I meant it to. I don't hate global, but I do think Zeta's going to win this game.
Let's move on then to the next
Sorry,
big
G.
game of the opening, which I think is going to be an interesting one
Oh,
in like the middle of the
boy.
pack. It's Gen.G playing against RRQ, who I think everybody's got questions about both of these. and
Oh
we're
my
split
God,
down the middle
Wyatt.
actually. So Wyatt and Mimi have gone for Gen.G for audio
Facts
listeners, and myself and Chobra have gone for RRQ. Now, I did not know which way to go on this. I'm not in love with either of these rosters. I kind of like what RRQ are doing a little bit more. What's the opinion? I want to get back up from Chobra before we move on to the Gen.G side of the table.
Okay, so me having tons of hopium for RRQ all throughout 2023 aside, I think this is a similar story to Zeta in a sense where I think first of all they've made clear upgrades to the roster, right? So Jemkin, no one can argue against that. He is a massive upgrade from the roster they had last year. Jemkin's always been very consistent. He's shown that he can bounce back even after a tough loss, and just the way he shoots, I think a lot of people agree that he is one of the up-and-coming talents in Pacific. And then Estrella is the one that I think a lot of people just don't have enough information on. But he has always been a very steady fragger in Korea. And then he's always been praised for his ability to call pretty well within Korean rosters. Like a lot of Korean players and people who are looking at talent have always said, like, if you need a caller, like Estrella's always there. He used to go by the name Gun Korea. He used to be part of different rosters as well. Now, I've always felt that Flips needed a lot more help in calling. I always felt that this team needed someone else to be just as vocal, to lead the team, to carry the momentum a bit further so that Flips also can focus on playing the game rather than calling. And Estrella's going to add that. On top of that, Estrella's also a very flexible player. I mean, he could be like nearing the next RB level in terms of he'll play whatever the team needs and he'll do it fairly well enough, right? Maybe not the top fragger every time. So that just opens up the comps that they can play. It also opens up Zafiro to now go back to his comforts of, you know, playing smokes and just clutching out games whenever he needs to. So to me, actually, the biggest question mark on RQ is whether Elmi Moore gets back to his consistent sharp shooting or if he's still going to be a slow starter like he was towards the later half of the year, because I think that really held them back in the later half of the year, especially towards LCQ. So if Elmi Moore also gets back into condition, I think the way they play will be stable enough, and then now they have a star duelist who can carry them when they need it most. To me, that's the biggest thing. I also think they just have really good reads on other teams. I think they have really good reads on how to work the map. The way that they used to move as a team have always been very good. They had very clear understandings of what areas did we give up and what areas are we taking over. The reason they started losing a lot is once they lost a couple rounds, they would all play individually. And I think the roster changes fix that.
Do you know how this team's going to be communicating? I assume they're going to be coming in English.
Yeah. I have heard, I've never spoken to Estrella in English, so I can't vouch for it 100%, but I've heard that his English is fine enough.
I don't know what Jemkin's English is like either. Because he was playing previously on a Japanese team, and I think he's from like really far east Russia. But I actually don't know how the comms are even working in that team, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the Jemkin part, yeah, I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, but to transition into the Gen.G believers, I'm fairly split on this game because I quite like what RQ are doing. I believe in some of what Chobra's spitting. And even though Gen.G were pretty decent last year, I'm looking at their roster and I'm like, I don't think that this makes a ton of sense to me. I think Texture's goated. I think that Karen looked like he had some level of skill, and Meteor's, talented. But I don't see a team identity here in the same way that RRQ is, so I don't feel confident in going for Gen.G. So what's your reasoning, Wyatt and Mimi, for going for this pick?
So I certainly don't feel like Gen.G are going to be a top team. I think when you're talking about team identity, it brings me to the standard team identity of middle of the pack can kind of punch up to upper middle of the pack players from Korea who have hung around as that like just below DRX kind of level for the longest time, just below T1 maybe currently. Listen, I'm not going to claim to be the RRQ expert here. I'm just going to go more so based off of what I saw from Gen.G in the offseason, which was really just kind of an impressive game against Foot in which Karen went crazy on the first map to get them a win. And this is also based on me respecting Foot a lot as one of the top EU teams heading in. And the secondary thing that I like is Texture is, to me, one of the best players from Korea. Was fantastic last year.
Yep.
A lot of respect for Texture. Going back to Duelist, I think he'll be very good. And Meteor off Duelist, but still on the team as a Sentinel. I like that as well. Meteor's Duelist is nowhere near as well-rounded as Texture's. Last season, he was inting so hard all the time, always disconnected from the team, always causing rifts in the actual coordination on site hits. But nonetheless, Meteor, in terms of individual skill, raw aim, very good, of course. And I like just throwing him on the Sentinel, have him be a little sentry that can win duels on defense, pick up that kill on the flank in a duel. That's essentially what I trust him to do. So I like that role switch. I'm going a lot based off this game against Foot, where they looked good, had a real shot at winning. Karen was fantastic on the first map, took it to OT on the final one. That about sums it up for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I honestly have the same reasons as Wyatt. I watched this game against Foot. I thought that they really should have won that second half of that third map as well. And I thought they were playing really well. I hadn't watched much Karen before this. He really impressed me. Meteor, hopefully no longer being permitted to int is great. And I'm just a huge texture believer. I think this is going to be a really close game, but I like the direction this Gen.G roster is headed. And I feel like we've seen RRQ fail a lot when they shouldn't have. I do agree with all the points that that you were making, Will, about the upgrades they've made to kind of move past some of those issues. But I feel like this is a close enough roster where I kind of feel safe in punting it a little bit for Gen.G. But honestly, in my opinion, kind of a coin flip.
Well, then the coin flip it is. Kurt,
Let's do it.
bring up the coin. Should we say RRQ are heads?
Sure.
Run it.
Heads it is.
That's
the coin has
sweet.
gone with RRQ.
The relief that is washed over William is astounding.
All right, so let's get into the rest of the pick'ems then, because that's we might as well work backwards. We've just talked about Gen.G RRQ, and they're in the final group, so we could bring up the pick'ems and kind of work back upwards. It's rough because whichever team wins in that one is going to be playing against Paper Rex. So
Is it though? Because I'm voting RQ in this one.
No,
No, but I legitimately
no.
am. I legitimately am. Here's what
okay, go.
Here's where I'm coming from. Here's where I'm coming from. Okay, Paper X like to send it. They always do. The meta has just shifted, and they are going to send it yet again.
Yep.
And destroy
And I-
RRQ.
No, I don't think they are. I don't think they are. I don't think Jemkin's gonna fold like a thin piece of paper against them. I don't think Zephyr's gonna fold. I don't think Elmemore shouldn't, but he
By
has
the way,
in
If
Sure,
they're
but
not folding like a
Jemkin-
thin piece of paper, they're gonna fold like some 0.5 weight cardstock. Like they are still folding.
Jemkin also
No, I don't think-
one of the things that people know him for the most is dropping
know.
0 on a game as
Yeah.
Reyna. He is a fantastic player, but he has folded before. We have seen him fold
the craziest
like a
part
paper
is,
crane.
But the craziest part is he came back and still top fragged for his team.
Yeah,
Like,
he did
that's-
very well afterwards.
That's the insanity of it, right? I also do think that 0-kill game, by the way, if anyone really wants to harp on it, I do recommend you go back and watch it and just see just how hard Bleed has a read on the angles he likes to peek, etc., and how hard they shut him down.
owns
Because
it.
crazy guys, Odin was just waiting for that Reyna to pop out of every wall, and he was ready to gun him down. But
And
aside
Paper
from
Rex,
that,
known for having bad reads and no idea of how to shut people
So
down.
true. So true.
well, I would say I don't think actually they're necessarily their best attribute is knowing how to shut people down. It's just that
Yeah,
they
fair
just
enough.
have
They
really
overwhelm.
they have good reads on their own plays and they're good
Yeah.
confidence. Paperx is obviously a great team. I think they rate number 1 in Pacific no matter what. I just think in Kickoff that it's not. I don't think it's gonna show. I don't think it's gonna show.
I feel like
I think that's a.
Go
Sorry,
ahead,
I was going to
Josh.
say that's a crazy upset to call, but at the same time, I respect that. I remember watching Paper X at the beginning of last year really struggle to figure out their team identity while
Sure.
they're running all sorts of bizarre stuff, and they were losing games to other teams that were playing fairly well. Like they didn't lose to everybody, but they were losing games if the opponent had a very good idea and theirs was half baked. Dude, Paper X. I don't think are going to go back to the stuff that wasn't working for them. I think Moniette's a great addition. If they do, I'll be very disappointed. If
Yeah.
Paper X start going back to running very either basic stuff or stuff that doesn't make too much sense overall, like, I don't know, triple duelist things or running a lot of Forsaken on duelist, I'll be disappointed. But I just don't think it's likely.
I feel like they learned their lesson from last year. And honestly, in my opinion, I understand why you want to go for this, but I don't feel like the RRQ, even if it just does come down to chaos and them running at them, I feel like the Paper X individuals are just so incredibly good. They have something. I have a lot of belief in Moniette coming into this roster, and the core of this team is just still so talented. I think it could be close. I think RRQ could get a map, but I feel like I feel like it's pretty far of a punt to go for RRQ on this.
I just have a
Gen Kid versus
question.
something would be awesome.
Yeah.
I do have a question for
Please.
Wyatt and Mimi. If Gen.G, if we had moved Gen.G up, would you still rate Paper X as
Oh, yeah, they're also
single-handedly
getting
beating
thrashed.
Gen.G?
Absolutely.
I actually think we have more chance to beat Gen
I
G,
think they have
to
a
be
better
honest with you.
chance too. That's crazy.
Yeah, but I think that's just like a bit of a stylistic thing. Like if,
Sure.
if RRQ win this game, it probably indicates that they've, that they're really set up as a solid team that might be able to beat a Paper X that hadn't figured something out.
From
Anyway.
watching, sorry, just from
Go
like
on.
watching these teams in the offseason and last year, I think that RRQ's style I think RRQ's more likely to beat them. I think their style would work better to shut down Paper X if they're at their most chaotic. I don't have the same faith in Gen.G to do the same, but I don't think either situation is happening.
So that sets us up with a lower bracket: RRQ versus Gen.G.
Flip the coin
Rematch again. Flip the coin again. Yeah.
flip it again,
Send
yeah.
So same thing. RRQ ahead.
Oh no.
Oh, well, this time
no.
Gen.G
Congrats,
makes it
Gen.G.
through. All right.
No.
No, listen, I think that's fair. I
No, I
will
think it's fair.
I'll always go for the in a bracket. Whoever loses the first time
Yep.
wins
Yeah.
the second time.
It
Yeah,
does
yeah,
happen
yeah.
a lot. Yeah.
Based.
All right. So let's go back up to the top. We had T1 over Bleed. We had Zeta over Global. So that sets us up for Bleed Global. Again, I feel like Bleed should just be
Bleed.
outclassing Global. So then we've got T1 versus Zeta division. Now that is a banger of a game with two teams that I think have both looked good in the offseason and both have a lot of promise. Personally, I would go for T1, but I think that's up in the air.
I think T1 clears Zeta.
Oh, you are a Zeta hater.
No, I actually think Zeta's going to do really well this year, but I think T1 comes into kickoff really strong. And we can save this for the tape. I think T1's going to fall off a lot throughout the year, but I think they're going to come into kickoff really strong. Okay. And then individually I think they clear Zeta for the time being. I think Depp can hold a candle against pretty much everyone against on the side of T1, but I mean, I think Excurate absolutely leaps above Laz.
What?
Unless maybe on Chamber, but dude, I think
Leaps above is crazy.
Dude,
think
Laz has
so.
performed at every global event to an
He's never
outstanding
not
degree,
performed.
even
Laz
against
is
good
very
teams.
good. Laz is very good, but I think Excurate is just so much more solid.
How? What are you basing? What does solid mean here?
No.
When is last
No
ever performed
feelings.
bad?
No
Okay.
feelings.
No feelings. It's because I think Excurate knows better how to take peaks, whereas Laz knows how to just hold angles a lot better. Right? And I think, but it's not that Excurate doesn't know how to hold angles, and it's not that he always overheats. But I think Excurate just has better ways to challenge fights rather than take fights in a way that he's going to win.
I really like Excurate as well, but I don't think he's going to diff Laz.
I just can't. I just can't.
I cannot see how you gamble against
Sorry,
Laz.
and this isn't even necessarily. I'm going to
Wait.
take Laz and Excurate totally out of the equation.
Sure.
Okay, if we're just going off of, there is one player who is proven to be able to farm on LAN at global events and put up excellent performances against top tier teams at global events, and another guy who's played against 90 games in tier 2 and 3 good teams in an off season. I'm just gonna go with the guy at global events 100% of the time.
I mean, I think we should count Excurate's former career as a CS:GO player as well, but
Nope.
obviously different games. But when it comes to why he has the confidence to take these fights and the way he's taking them, I think a lot of those fundamentals carry over. Here's the other thing. I've seen so many games in Pacific where Laz just did not perform if he wasn't on the chamber, right?
Yeah, he's certainly much more consistent on the
the
chamber.
comfort of the rendezvous and all that, right? Obviously, this happens for everyone. But whereas, just within his first couple games in a tier 1 tournament, I think Excurate showed a lot more consistency in his fundamentals across different agents. So that's where this is nothing. If anything, if I'm wrong, it's because I rated Excurate too high, not Laz too low. Let's just make that very clear, right? It's not that I think Laz is overrated. I am just rating Excurate slightly above that.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move on to the next decision that we've got to go for then, because I think we're mostly
Did we
on
even
the.
pick?
Well, I thought we
Yeah,
were
they
mostly on the. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I guess we didn't. I went for T1. Choba went for T1 as well.
T1.
And Wyatt, for the record.
I abstain. I would have been
Okay.
coin flip, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's an extraordinarily close
I think
game.
we're just like two upper mid card, maybe just below Paper Rex level. You know what I mean?
The middle
I'd
class fighting
abstain.
each other again. So
Do we
sad.
think, though, that Zeta manages to get out over Bleed? Because I think this is one of the most interesting groups that we have, because I could see 3 teams that could easily all make it out. I think it's very unlikely for Global to be able to make it out of this group, but the other 3, I don't think we should write off Bleed, even though T1 Zeta we've got in the winners bracket. I really think Bleed could take that.
I think it's close, but I lean more towards Bleed.
Yeah, see, I lean Zeta, but I don't want to discount Bleed. So I don't know.
See, Bleed is such a, like we were talking about in the earlier games. For me, they are the team with the most variability in how they can perform. And I understand why you want to believe they'll be their best and go over, but I feel like it is just, to go back to facts and logic, I think it is illogical to bet against the team that we know is a solid mid-tier roster with good players that we know are going to perform at this level, that have done it many times before, versus the total wild card team. I'm always going to bet on the safe middle versus the team that could be great or could be shit. We absolutely should predict Zeta Division.
Okay. Why are you on the Zeta train as well?
Yeah, in this game for sure. But I agree in Bleed's ability to, I think, potentially win any game in that group.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so there we have it. Let's move on to the next one then. This one should be no, not Detonation Focus Me. Winning out. Secret Talent. Does anyone believe in Talent? They have rebuilt some serious level of their roster this year. No, I'm seeing shaking heads.
No.
All right, DRX
No.
Team Secret though.
Vote
This is
Secret.
not old DRX. Oh, you are going anti-establishment today, Chobo. You're going
I'm with
for
you,
the
Chobra.
upsets.
I'm with
Yes.
That's based.
Are you going
Secret.
for that as well, Mimi?
Yeah, I'm on board. I'm a
Oh,
Team
yeah.
Secret
Oh my
fan.
God.
I'm a Team
You've
Secret
all seen
fan.
the light.
Holy moly!
It is-
Never
Team
invite
secrets.
Achilles back to this podcast ever again.
Okay, so then in the lower bracket we have Detonation versus Talon. What a matchup! Last year that would have been a
You know,
Pooper Bowl.
Last year, I mean, didn't someone? What was the tier list I saw where they put Detonation pretty high?
Match of the week.
What was that?
I don't know. Was that
Does anyone know what
Detonation's
I'm
own
talking
tier
about?
list?
I don't. I'm not sure whose it was. I need to find this now because I swear it was a pros tier list.
do you know
what I'm talking about?
Oh, I
I think
know
it
what
was the Gen.G guy. Oh,
Yeah, it might have been Gen.G.
one of the Gen.G guys, I think.
I'm gonna find.
Oh
this.
no! It was Zest and Dwenmo who are playing in their own challengers team. So old DRX Zest and then Dwenmo, who's his teammate now on their like amateur.
And they're playing
pro
in
team.
like that like content creator streamer team that's also
Yeah, they're
trying
the
to-
new F4Q, which
I
is Team
found
I
it,
am.
yeah.
Yeah, they're all very good. Here's the thing: is I've heard the same things as they have. I mean, presumably they've scrimmed at least once against all these guys. But I've heard that DFM is actually probably going to surprise a lot of people. Whether that's because they're going to get one win or not, who knows what the standard is there.
They're going,
But-
I think they're going to be more consistent than the previous version of the roster now that they're basically just Crazy Raccoon. But the level of play is going to be low. They're going to, I mean, it's essentially like you've just taken a top 3 team. Where did they come? Was it, where did they actually
top
finish?
four. Fourth.
Right, top 4.
Finished
So a top 4
fourth, yeah.
team from contenders, and you've
Yeah,
thrown them
and
in.
it doesn't look good. I mean, I went back and looked at some of the Crazy Raccoon games, and it's like there's inklings there, but it's the same weaknesses that I think we've come to expect from a lot of the weaker Japanese teams, or even times of Zeta Division as well, where either they have good ideas but the execution's not there across all 5 players, or they're kind of assuming things, and that's not the best way to play Valorant. But however,
could they beat Talon though? Talon are not looking like an all-star roster.
That's the thing. Once Talon announced, first of all, Talon didn't look that great at their offseason tournament, but then they announced that they're adding Surf, and then in the Emerge video, Surf's sitting there like, well, I'm ready to play whatever this team needs. And I'm like, what? That's not why you would add a player like Surf. You would add him because you want a different star duelist, which is what was confusing a lot of us. So I have even less of an idea of what this team's going to do since their intro video came out. And I think that's why DFM actually is going to win this match.
I'm not going to lie. I didn't even know that they added Surf. That just, I missed that completely. I didn't know that was a thing.
Wait, they added Surf?
Yeah.
What?
It's
when was
crazy.
that? Oh, that was like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
or
that's
something.
kind of sick.
Yeah.
Xerxes
Just
is so
completely didn't know.
back. Time for them to go to an international event and go out 0-2.
Or they upset NRG.
Or beat
Yeah, well,
Optic
yeah,
and
that-
then go out 1-2. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't even really understand what the roles are going to be on this team.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing is that if we can't tell. Here's my guess. Here's
I don't
my
know.
guess is that Surf isn't going to play during kickoff. And I feel like there's some world where Cruz is slowly going to phase himself out and Surf is going to pick up Flex and he's going to slot in because Lenny's the IGL now.
Right.
So, yes, Lenny's the IGL. Cruz is not. There's a lot of question marks for this team.
Yeah. Well, I guess, yeah. What
but that's
what does the
long-term.
Fact Brigade think? Do you want to go for a team? I mean, it's a known quantity. Detonation focus me.
Yeah, and what's known
Too
is that they
known.
were hot ass last
No,
year.
but this isn't the same team as last
I
year.
know,
This is
I
the
know.
Crazy Raccoons. Like, if you're going to compare them to anybody, you compare them to Crazy Raccoon of last year.
Okay,
You don't
but
compare,
the facts and
compare
logic
them to
then
DFM.
is Xerxes was better than Crazy Raccoon.
Yeah, but this isn't really Xerxes either, is it? They've got
But
Ban
it's
and
kind
Governor.
of Xerxes versus kind of Crazy Raccoon, and I kind of think that Xerxes was kind of better, so I'm kind of picking Talon here. That's my
think that's
irrefutable
reasonable.
facts.
Dude, I don't have any clue about this game.
Yeah, I don't know,
Oh,
but
great.
I feel like Talon's a safer bet.
I'm going straight firepower. That's the only thing I'm basing this off of, and I'm going Talon. That's
Yeah.
it.
Okay. And where's your head at, Chobra?
I mean, I'm actually voting for DFM, but
Okay.
I don't think it's so unknown this match.
Yeah. Dude, Lord knows. Send it to the coin. I'll go for DFM as well.
Oh, nice.
This is the perfect coin.
Wait, we
match.
didn't
heads?
pick who
Yeah,
was
we didn't.
who. Let's
Tails
say Talon
wins!
is. Let's say Talon is tails and spin again. It's Talon.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Talon
Alright.
make it through. And lose immediately.
Yeah.
And there we go.
Okay. So what does that set us up as a play-in though? Because this is a wild play-in. Because we've got Zeta. Like no matter what, the Group A play-in team
yeah.
is going to be extremely good. But then in Group B, the play-in team is going to be great, and we've got DRX as it in our bracket. So yeah, that is like Zeta DRX Gen.G would be a stacked play-in.
Yeah, when we did the Pacific episode with the power ranking, it was just tier like 2 through
2 through
8.
8.
It was
Yeah.
like, well, any of these teams could reasonably beat any of these other teams. It's not too far off. So no matter what, that plan is going to be chaotic, and any of the teams feel like they could reasonably take it. So
Yeah.
I think there's, just for the record, I think there's a decent chance that DRX isn't in the playoffs. But
When was the last time DRX didn't make an international event? Was it literally Reykjavik?
I believe so.
I think so. I
That's
think they made
wild
every
if that
other one.
happens.
You know what would be a crazy story is just Solo came back from the dead, takes this head coach spot on Gen.G, beats DRX, and then goes to Masters Madrid.
That would be the
And then he
funniest
reaches the
timeline.
grand final to set a new record for Korea.
But also, you could have the same thing, but like Lakia, basically, right? Like, even if
Yes.
Solo doesn't come back, Lakia
Yes.
did manage to beat
That's
them and make it to the international event.
Lakia has
anyway,
the potential to do the funniest thing ever.
He does after sitting on the bench of DRX for 6
Yeah.
months.
That was like the last notable thing he did was turn up to Reykjavik and do well. And I mean, if that happened again at the beginning, it'd be like we were living through 2021. And then Sentinels wins the entire thing.
He's
Wait,
like a
holy shit!
Wait, what? That's so
Wait.
fucking real.
Wait, we're actually living in 2021. The world is a cycle.
Lakia is a cicada. He goes and sleeps under a tree for 3 years, only to emerge, pop off for a moment, and promptly die again. Ready to be reborn.
Fnatic's gonna be second place. Wait, this actually works so
This
well.
is so funny.
Wait,
The
it's
Masters
possible.
Reykjavik narratives could come back. All right, let's move on to the region that we know the least about. And if you thought there were few facts and few insights in the rest of the episode, hello,
There's gonna be none.
hello, China. What's up, Beijing? Let's go.
CN fighting.
So there are two games that look fairly decent. To be honest, a lot of the others look fairly one-sided, so we should actually have some correct pick'ems at least, but God knows. So let's have a look. First one is JDG playing against Titan Esports Club. This JDG team is the rare atom, and that's a Plat chat guarantee. We've all gone for JDG. But they have lost their IGL, so that makes a big difference. Oh, you were going to go for Titan?
No.
Yes.
Why?
Maybe don't say no like you like you have an idea as to why you should be saying no.
Sometimes you just have to guess and you have to believe, okay? Belief outweighs everything.
Change mine. I need it
Good Lord.
changed.
Why, though?
That's insane.
They have RB.
And you think that's just going to make all the difference?
Yep.
Bro, you just clowned on me for saying no about you choosing this and give me the most bullshit fucking logic anyone has ever given.
Why was
That's
that?
not
I think
real.
that's very
Okay,
logical.
the logic for JDG is they choked. They absolutely should have won Ascension with their previous team. They've changed out a player, sure, but I honestly think they looked good in that Ascension tournament. There's no reason for them to not look good here. And it's Titan Esports, who? I don't know anything about them, so I have to pick the team I know something about.
Yeah, I mean, but also there is good reason to
Thank
be a
you,
little
Kurt.
more doubtful of JDG because we really don't. I don't know much about the player that they've replaced Yeoman with, and I think the calling was one of the biggest reasons why this team was good. And they were put in like a Sophie's choice position where they had to either get rid of their top player or they had to get rid of their IGL. And to me, in a region like China where there's a lot of teams doing some stupid shit, you keep the IGL. You can find another star player, even though Stu is a monster. But they went for the opposite decision, and I'm worried that it might really hurt them. I was so sad that this team didn't win Ascension with Rare Atom, but it wouldn't have made a difference anyway. They would have still had to just cut one of their players.
I mean, I have to assume that perhaps part of it is that they just think the coaching can still carry most of that through. Because I can't imagine that the calling was very like all coming
Wait,
in
it's
from
actually
Yeoman alone.
2021. The coaches are calling. Holy shit.
NBS and Pipson going nuts out there.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. I thought it would have been wiser for them to keep the IGL Yeoman and then find a replacement for Stu, which would have sucked for Stu. I mean, again, it's terrible either way, but I can't really blame them. I mean, I think probably they also just feel the base chemistry that they're going to have could carry them forward, and the firepower is going to be what's needed for the early couple tournaments.
Speaking of like chemistry, firepower, those kind of things, how are they going to integrate RB into a team that was speaking Mandarin before this? I mean, I don't exactly understand. I think that JDG, or Rare Atom as they were speaking mostly in English, and that was how they were bridging the gap.
Yeah,
Is
now
Titan going to completely redo their calling to English, and RB is going to becoming English?
I would say that's where my logical my logic turns into Swiss cheese full of holes. But I'll be ignoring that.
So, yeah, I think there's so many interesting things, but we need more info about a lot of these Chinese orgs, because I didn't even really understand what language some of the others, like I think Autumn's team, FPX, right? Dude, am I getting confused again? I think he plays for FPX. Yeah. FPX were communicating mostly in English as well, I believe. With like, even though Autumn, who is a Australian player, does speak Mandarin, they were still speaking in English just to make it more fluid, I guess, for the team. So there's some wild shit happening in VCT China. Let's move on to the next game though, which is Billy Gaming. You know them, you love them. They crush your dreams if you're a North American fan. They sent artists home. Billy Gaming playing against Wolverhampton Wolves Esports. And Chobra's gone for the team from Wolverhampton, while the rest of us go with big old Billy. This Wolves roster looks all right, which is sad to me, actually, because I really want to clown on them. but they've actually got some good talent. So what's the reasoning for you picking them over Billy?
I just think Billy has been really disappointing me every step of the way during our off season and their semi preseason, whatever we want to call it, right? Ascension and all that. So I just feel like they haven't figured out how to like catch up. I feel it just seems like they had their sparkling moment of really grinding away against, you know, the other known values in China. Their firepower carried them through a bit, and then the judge got nerfed, and then YZ just couldn't find a way to make the judge raise nerf work on every map. And then now the map pool even, you know, is worse than that. I just think I don't have faith that Billy is going to fix the problems that they were facing during everything post like Champions.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to
adjust
adjust quickly enough. And then I think the roster's, like you said, okay on Wolves. So I just thought, why not?
It's actually not just okay. Dude, this Wolves roster, I'm pissed, actually, because they've constructed a good roster. And what's maddening about that is I want to clown on the team from Wolverhampton as being like this shite team that can't get any wins. But Plix is a very good player from Australia who's been playing even fairly well while he was playing within the Chinese circuit, though he wasn't lighting the world on fire, but he was playing pretty damn well. Spring is pretty nuts as a primary duelist. We've seen Ucore pop off in previous rosters that he's played with. So just the skill on those three players alone is very solid. And I think again, as with everything in China, they might end up just playing some absolutely batshit ideas, but Billy do as well. So it's not like they would be in bad company. I mean, FPX are like a top 3 team in China, and they play the stupidest Valorant you've ever seen. So I think this Wolves roster is cooking, and I've just gone with Billy because they're the more known quantity. But I think this is going to be a good game, actually. They got a lot of like, explosive stuff. Spring versus YZ is good. Yeah.
I am a Spring fan. I'm a Plix fan. I'm a Kickoff fan. I have no idea how the team is going to work as a team. Who the fuck knows? It's probably going to be silly, but they have good enough players that I think just based off that, this match will be close. But I feel like you kind of got to go for the known quantity here, which is like the only reason I picked BLG.
Okay,
sorry,
go on.
Yeah, I was just going to add one nice little final point, which is that since beating NRG, Billy have actually played 21 matches, and I will be factoring none of those in.
My king, so fucking based.
They haven't won a bunch of them. I mean, I don't even know what their record is since beating NRG.
No, it's been bad, man.
It hasn't been good. Yeah. What is their record since playing NRG? Oh, let's say since champions. Let's not count DRX EDG.
Let me find out. That's going to be 1, 2,
7
3,
and
4,
3,
5, 6, 7, 8.
4.
Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So they have one more win than loss.
So they're 6 and 4.
Jeez.
No.
Right,
I mean, they're
10 and
11
9.
for 10.
Oh,
Yeah,
11 for 10. Right.
Yes,
right,
they're
right,
11
okay.
wins, 10 losses.
Whilst playing in
Fantastic
China.
evidence.
That's pretty good.
A
That's
500
pretty good.
team playing against some of the weakest partnership teams there are. Okay. Yep. It hasn't been good for Billy out there.
William is gonna rally back this time. Not
let's-
the William who predicted against them, but from the one from Billy Gaming. He's gonna go crazy.
Let's have a look at our pick'ems then, because that Billy Wolves game is actually kind of super important because those teams are in a really tough group. They're in the EDG group, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of nasty actually because those are two decent teams, but it makes the rest of the groups quite simple to predict in my opinion because Trace and FPX are just way better than everybody else, I think. Yeah, what do you reckon on Trace versus FPX? Anyone got any strong opinions either way? I hate the way that FPX play, so I will root against them every single time. I will go for Trace every day of the motherfucking week. It pisses me off to no end
You're
the way that
passionate?
FPX play.
I'm convinced. That's all I needed.
No, FPX are good. They're probably better than Trace.
I
just
like
hate them.
FPX. I like the crazy FPX plays. I'm a big fan. So I lean towards FPX in that one. But
You want to
I
coin
mean,
flip it, or
they-
do you have opinions?
I do want to ask. I'm the idiot who doesn't know very much about VCT China. How different is this FPX than the like FPX we've been familiar with at like international events in the past?
It's not that unfamiliar, in my opinion. I think the
But I would
style
say
of the
it's a-
team is still quite similar.
Okay.
Yeah, the style's similar, but the addition of life is probably a big enough deal to count, I would say.
I think they've improved the roster for sure. Like on their skill factor is high. Life is really good. Lysor's super talented. Autumn's mega talented as well. But Berlin is a maniac. Berlin is just.
That's why I love this guy, dude. I'm such a huge
Is he still like lurking on Fade and bullshit?
Dude, he's doing the silliest shit, and not just that. They are doing like I'm watching them play Viper, right? And they got the little Viper orb on Haven. And where do you think that little bad boy goes? Does it go in the meta position that is like the best place possible on defense to put the Viper orb? Nope. They got lineups across the map to chuck it into random fucking choke points. They have Viper lineups, Viper walls that you will never see any other team do. Any other team. They try to reinvent the meta every single time they approach a map. But they have a very skilled roster, and they have some semblance of like coordination on the plays that they're going for. They're just going for like significantly worse plays than the established meta, but they make it work, and that pisses me off.
From hearing that, honestly, don't let the haters like Josh drag you down, FPX. Dudes rock. Pick them to win.
Yeah. Trace, on the other hand, are like a very standard team. They've been top 4. They tried to play sensible Valorant, but they're not quite as skilled. To be honest, FPX will probably win.
Sensible
and
Valorant.
I'll probably get really fucking angry about it.
Boo.
Tyloo probably beat Nova. I don't know. Both of those teams, I think, are quite poo. Trace wins. Happy with that?
Yes.
Throw it in. Let's move on. JDG against Titans, we already predicted. DRG against All Gamers. Dude, All Gamers look like one of the worst teams in the league. Maybe I'll be proven completely incorrect, because it's not like I know a huge amount about them, but I only know Bunt and Monk, really, because we've seen them play before on higher level teams. But DRG just won Ascension in China, and you can't vote against that, can you? Bukashu's been knocking people out. And this then would be a rematch, actually, of the Ascension finals in China, basically, like Rare Atom playing against Dragon Rangers. I've got to go for DRG because they lost their IGL. Like, JDG lost their IGL.
Actually.
So I'm going for Dragon Ranger, even though Rare Atom choked the last time.
Cool.
Yeah. That's reasonable.
Which sets us up, presumably, for a rematch with JDG against Titan in the lower bracket.
Yeah, because I agree that RB is strong enough to at least carry them against all
Yeah,
gamers.
and then
so.
JDG went. Yeah, I feel like this is reasonable.
Oh,
Ignoring Wyatt's
falling.
rule.
You're falling for you're going against Wyatt's law.
No.
You
We
don't
can
own
switch
that
it.
one.
We can switch it.
I don't
No,
think
I
that's-
do own that now. I just claimed it.
What? So, wait, do you want us to stick with the original so that you can gloat when we're wrong?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, let's do it.
Listen, I'll either be gloating or gloating. Like, almost no matter what. I mean, hopefully.
So then we had Billy over Wolves here.
Yeah.
EDG win that game,
Yeah,
I think,
EDG.
pretty easily.
Wyatt's
Ooh,
law.
the law's
Okay, I'm
back.
down for Wyatt's Law here, though.
Wyatt's Law.
Wyatt's Law here makes a lot of sense to me.
Wait, we cannot make that Wyatt's Law. You did not invent that shit. That's been a fucking. That's like saying gravity is Wyatt's Law. You
When
can't
has
just
that,
like.
when has that
Well, yeah,
ever
people-
mattered in history?
Exactly.
When? It never mattered.
Surely in 2024 we can't let a white man steal another thing that's existed for eons. Don't let this happen again.
And yet we will. The patriarchy wins again.
Dude, you're actually Christopher Columbusing the fucking people win the rematches rule. This can't be
Yep.
allowed.
Yep.
I love it.
Yep.
As long as you stick your name on it, then it lives.
We're gonna have to tear down statues of Wyatt in like 100 years after he stole this rule.
Okay, so what does that? Sorry, what does that set up our play-ins? We've had a look at the other play-ins bracket, but is this one interesting? So Trace, they look like a pretty solid team. They're in the play-ins. Then we have JDG. Those are also a really good team in the play-ins. And
This gets
then
interesting.
Wolves. Actually, I think that China's going to be really interesting.
Should
I
be
think
fun
this-
to watch because
Yeah.
it's either really good matches or some of these teams are just going to be crazy silly and it's hard to predict what. It's like I feel like it's going to be watching like some of the early days Valorant where you're just like you're seeing some teams that are like in the future. It's going to be like a late game second episode in a row, I made a Civilization reference, but it's like the technology tree difference deep into a game where one team is still like discovering their identity and the other is like advanced society. I think it's going to be really cool. I think there's a lot of potential for like random teams to end up being really good. For people who haven't been watching this, it should be like kind of a fun discovery. Not to say that these teams are like brand new, but for those that are, it'll be really interesting.
The bottom level of some of the other leagues is still going to be fun to watch. Like, I think the bottom level of Americas in particular is still going to be fairly entertaining.
Yes.
The bottom level of China is not going to be entertaining, I don't think. It's going to be catastrophically bad.
But that's entertaining,
But
though.
thankfully, well, what I was going to say is thankfully with this format, they go out like almost immediately. And once you watch the play-ins and the like single elim portion, you've actually got some really quality teams there.
You can only care about so many catastrophically bad teams, though.
True.
I think you
That's
can
why
only
I'm saying
get, like,
I don't
one
care
or
about the
two.
Chinese ones.
Yeah, like, you know, DFM, whomever. Like, sure, that'll be cool. You know, I don't think anyone in NA will be catastrophically bad, right? Maybe, or EU.
I mean, I think
I don't know.
I don't think there's any.
Maybe China will have the only catastrophically bad teams this year.
I think EU. I think EMEA might have.
Wait,
I
who
mean,
does
between
EMEA have?
between
I forget.
Heretics, Koi,
Oh
and
yeah,
BBL.
no. Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
And DFM.
I rescind that. I forgot.
Yeah, but again, I don't think there's like a funny hook into a lot of these teams this year.
It's not like K Corp,
Yeah.
DFM. No.
I mean,
we
yeah,
had to-
China's just starting, right? So the bottom tiers will have to build their stories one way or another. So we'll
Yes.
just have to wait for like half a year.
I think
Yeah.
I think this year it's, you know, like if Koi are really bad, it's just sad because it's not even
Yeah.
their fault. Like K Corp, they shot themselves in both feet, and then also the way the audience treated you, Josh, it was the perfect storm. But Koi, it's like that's just sad.
Yeah.
You,
know,
not
at least
anyone
I-
can be K-Core.
Yeah, if heretics are bad, I respect what they went for. You know, it's not. I don't know. It's just not. It's not the same. If crew
think-
are bad, it's like, oh man, it's
I
a
think we're
sad
waiting
state
for.
of
I think
South
we're waiting for a
America.
team that has good expectations to massively underperform. Then
Right.
it'll be funny to or fun. Sorry, I should say fun, not funny, to watch their matches and see if they can pick themselves back up. But that does it. We've predicted all of the opening matches for all 4 regions, and surely Plat Valorant will continue with such a high level of coverage of all 4 regions and 44 teams, and we definitely won't
Exactly.
fail to watch the VODs every week because that's a mammoth task, and 3 hours of your life has to be spent every single day on average for the entire year. I think it's time for the Wyatt's Weekly Award then, is it, Wyatt?
Yeah. Oh, hey there. It's Wyatt's Weekly Award. Yeah, that's a hit him with a throwback. That's a throwback all the way to the LA Hell House in 2020 or 2019. God knows when that was.
2020, yeah.
But yeah, you love to see that. What an era. What an era. Now, this week, nepotism is back. Nepotism is back on the menu. Last week, I lied when I said it was over for nepotism. This week, right back to nepotism in the weekly award, because I'm going to give it to the little Plat Chat stream crew conglomerate for putting the effort into running this charity event over the past several days. And for the audio listeners at home, that's a goal of $4,000 and an actual raise total of 21, just a hair over 21K. So that is a job well done. Actually, I would say this is the first time a nepotism award is actually for a good reason. I think for the first time in 4 years of this show, a valid reason
I
for
do
nepotism.
love to see that raising $22,000 for charity is the same as one gifted sub to your channel.
It has done the exact same thing. Truly the exact same thing.
Pop off. Yeah, it was sick. We had a lot of fun. and I was waiting for Wyatt to come and play Lethal Company with us, and you did.
I had a thing come up. Sadly,
Aw.
a
That's
thing
tough.
happened.
Okay, well, we'll do it another time, I suppose.
But generally, shout out to everyone in the community who like donated so much money
Yeah,
and
that's
poured
sick.
everything out for a great cause. It was really cool to watch, and yippee, charity good. Cool.
Yeah. Yep.
Couldn't have
Appreciate
said it better myself, Mimi.
Another excellent insight from me this episode.
So
Ugh,
in about 4 days' time, I think almost exactly now, or maybe a couple of hours earlier, we will be playing the first game of, or rather, we'll be watching the first game of VCT.
Josh is actually subbing in.
Wait.
Yeah, I'm gonna
He's
sub it.
on Furia.
It's in 4 days' time.
Yeah.
It's on the
4
16th.
days.
Yeah,
Who's playing the first game? NRG?
Energy.
NRG versus Furia.
On the 16th at 4 p.m. Central
you go.
Time. Wow.
What time is it now in Central Time?
1.
12:41.
Oh, right. So it's not yet. It wouldn't have even started yet, but
Yeah,
we'd
a
be
couple hours later.
getting set for it.
How about that?
Yeah, so that's going to be sick. So tune in. I mean, next week, can we even do one next week, Kurt?
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time making sure that we can. So
Cool.
Sick. Okay.
Nice.
yes, it will
Nice,
probably
nice,
be Wednesday, I think.
Okay.
Next week.
So we'll be back. Kurt has absolutely cooked. Goated producer has figured out how to do the show while we're on the road as well, and now he's going to dox us. So we'll be back with episode 168 next week. Where
And
we,
if you need more content in the meantime, I'm about to plug my shit. The interview with Rob Moore on my channel, Unnamed with Wyatt River. Go watch that if you need more Valorant talking content in in the meantime. Last second plug before you
good.
I
turn the
haven't
show
watched
off,
it
Josh.
actually. Yeah, I should.
Yeah.
I should
I
go
gotta
and watch
tune
it.
in.
Give me that view and a like.
And also, I want to give another plug again for Pedro Romero, who's been doing really good interview content. Please go and check it out. It's like some of the best interview content that we've had before a season because he's just pumped out so many of them. So yeah, go and have a listen to those. I'm sure we'll be referencing them on the official broadcast too. But we'll see you next week for episode 168, talking about the opening games and kickoffs and seeing how stupid and wrong we are. Bye.